Well, jeepers! You're listening to Smash or Pass with JayBee, Millie, and Smash!
And of course, Rihanna. So, in today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at Scooby Doo and the Curse of the 13th Ghost. So, as always, for a bit of background, this is one that JayBee and I hadn't seen before. I think it's fair to say, with it being based on a pre-existing series, it was one that I was a little wary of.
Yeah, whatever. Like, why are you asking? It's how you feel. Why are you posing like a question?
I was turning to you like, were you similar?
Well, no, because I think for context, we kind of rewatched the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo before we watched this, and yeah, I didn't really care for the show, to be honest. So I I ended like the final episode of that show and just thought, right, I don't mind if the movie kind of like poos on it a bit. I'm not bothered as long as it's a good movie.
I'd agree with that. I think rewatching the series, I realised that I wasn't as nostalgic for it as I thought I was. So I was kind of less possessive when it came to this movie this time around. Smash, I'm guessing this is a movie that you've seen maybe more than a few times?
I have indeed watched this one plentiful of times.
And Rihanna, what about you? Is this one that you'd seen before?
I watched it today, and then I watched it when it first came out. And I'm a huge fan of this series, the original series, and it's like mainly because I used to watch it when I was home from school because I was ill and stuff. So I'm like really protective over it. So I have a lot of opinions on this movie. So, but you know.
They're opinions that I am looking forward to hearing, I will admit. So, I know, Smash, quite often we refer to you as, you know, the kind of person with all the background knowledge and stuff like that. And so, before we get into the movie itself, I guess I had a few questions about the series for either you or Rihanna, if that's okay?
All right, let's go.
So, I guess, how could you possibly, like, summarize how the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, the series, ended? Because I know JayBee said there was some kind of, did you say it was cancelled, JayBee, or something? So, like, if it left it in the middle of the series, if there's anything that was kind of left unaddressed. I know JayBee was talking about some stuff, but, like...
Well, sorry, Rihanna, did you want to say something? I was just kind of jumping in.
Oh, no, it's fine. You can take over, like...
So, as far as I know, the original series mainly came out of the success of Ghostbusters, and so Scooby-Doo wanted a series with real ghosts and like ghost catching and stuff. But for whatever reason, everything that I've heard or read, nobody wanted to work on this series. Everybody hated the characters in it. Nobody wanted Flim Flam, but the studio requested a kid character to be in it. This is kind of where the studio, which they weren't owned by Warner Brothers yet, actually, at this point, but this is just kind of where this overall consensus started to be like, we don't like Scrappy anymore for whatever reason, but you know, he was still there, and so this was supposed to be just, you know, a quick series. It was never intended to have more seasons or anything. But then also, this series sparked a lot of backlash from, we'll say, religious parents. And there's numerous kind of readings, and there might even be some, like, radio recordings somewhere of parents, like, literally saying that this series promotes the devil and that the Scooby-Doo series is telling kids about hell and everything. And so this series was just doomed from the very beginning. And it's amazing that they even got to 13 episodes, but unfortunately it was one less than they needed. And so it just ended abruptly. There was no explanation. Kind of just went untouched, unnoticed, and whatever. And then leading up to this movie, I'll just kind of include this as well. Funny enough, the director of this movie was the same director as The Gourmet Ghost, which is Tim Sheridan. But they actually came up to Tim and said, so we want to do these handful of movies. They said, we're going to try to do something different, but we want this first one to be based around the series of the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo, because that hasn't been touched in a long while. And Tim actually grew up with this series, and so he was like, oh my gosh, I know this series like the back of my hand. Perfect. And so, you know, he asks, like, what are we thinking for this movie and stuff? And the studio literally went, I don't know. We don't know. We just want it to be based around the series. And so Tim Sheridan actually was like, y'all do realize they never actually got the last ghost, the 13th. And the studio was like, what? Really? They never did? Huh? And so Tim was like, all right, well, I know the movie I'm doing. So there's your little story.
Okay, thank you. That certainly is
I think if
very
I had crazy
helpful.
parents like that, I'd have called childlike.
So I guess before we normally begin, we'd summarise the movie, and I've not done that yet. So we've kind of summarised the series, got some insight there. The movie itself, for those of you that's not seen it before, or at least haven't seen it for a while, basically in this movie, the intro, it takes us back in history to a young Vincent and how they initially trapped the 13 ghosts. We're then going to have the titles that summarise the things that happened in the series. And then from there, when the movie starts, Daphne and Shaggy and Scooby are invited back to catch the 13th ghost which Vincent had found. So that ultimately leads to the entire gang kind of taking a trip to Vincent's house and going along this kind of story that I'm not summarising very well.
You're doing great.
Where basically they have to introduce Fred and Velma to this different world that they've been in while they were away, the different possibilities of, you know, ghosts and everything been real. They split up, so you get to see that dynamic again. Daphne and Shaggy and Scooby kind of go off with Vincent, while Fred and Velma get some time to kind of adapt to things that's happening, and also they run into a grown-up flim-flam. Then at the end, everyone's kind of brought back together as they ultimately go to try and catch the 13th ghost, which is kind of the aim of the movie in general. So my first question for everybody is what they thought when this idea was proposed, like when they first heard this movie was coming out. So Brianna, I know you said you loved the series. How did you feel when this movie was announced?
I was so optimistic. I was like, we're finally getting to, like, I was always the kind of person who I grew up watching all the different Scooby series. 13 Ghosts was on so much when I was growing up and I was home from school. But I also watched a series called Sonic Underground, which also didn't have a definite ending. So for me, having two shows that I watched religiously, basically, not having an ending, I was like, well, I need to know what happens next. There's a ghost out, there's a demon. Like, come on, people. Like, what's going to happen now? Is it just going to show up? So when it was announced, I got so excited, and I went to my mum and I was like, hey, Mum, look, they're doing this. We need to watch it, And I just was so excited, and I was like, oh, it's the curse. And, as it went on, I, found out that Fred and Velma were going to be in it, so I was coming up with different ideas, like, well, how are they going to introduce? Maybe the ghost, curses them and uses them as, like, their slaves, like Bogo and Weird or something, the two ghosts from the original series. So there was so many possibilities going on in my head, and I was so excited for it.
That's really good. I mean, I agree with you. There's certainly lots of good ideas that they could have done and stuff to speculate on. And I think a lot of this was kind of just thinking about what it was going to be as opposed to what it actually was. So, Smash, how did you feel about the initial idea when it was proposed?
So, kind of a funny story. I didn't hear about this movie like early or anything. I found out about the movie when the trailer dropped. And so I was at work And at the time, I was a cashier. And so, you're like constantly working with customers and whatever. And I was like, okay, I need to go to the bathroom. Like, because what I usually did at that time was I'd take like a bathroom break halfway through my shift. And I was like, okay, we're halfway there, whatever. Anyway, so I go take my bathroom break. Obviously, you get on your phone while you're in the bathroom, whatever. And all of a sudden, everybody's posting. I'm like, ooh, yes, the next, Scooby movie got announced and the trailer's up and whatever. So I like literally went into the trailer. Like, I didn't start playing it. There was like an article that dropped with it and whatever. So I went into the article where the trailer was too. And I was just reading about it. And I literally was just like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Like, the next movie, la da 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 da. Okay. Do you see where I'm going? Nothing's hit me yet. So whatever, go back and like, okay, I'll do a trailer reaction when I get home. Going through my shift, whatever. Anyway, I get off and I'm like, okay, let's go home, let's record this. Sit down and whatever. Start playing the trailer and I'm like, wait, why did this not dawn on me? 13th Ghost, holy crap, what? It took me like 3 hours to process this. I was laughing at myself. I'm like, how the frick did I not get that? Anyway, so I was freaking out during the trailer because, again, it didn't dawn on me. I'm like, that character's back. They're going to do this, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so then it came out in November, the trailer did, and then the movie released in that following February. Which, funny enough, the trailer actually dropped 13 weeks before the movie came out. Little fun fact for you. But anyway, so before the movie came out, like as it was getting closer and whatever, I have somewhere, I wish I had it prepared, but somewhere I have written down like everything that I thought could happen, would be cool. I had a whole like end battle in mind of like all the characters that they had run into through the series. I was like, just a wild idea. It might not happen, but just a fun idea. I was like, how would they incorporate Flim Flam? What if Scrappy came back? Like, I have it written down somewhere. I had all these ideas of how they could go about this. And anyway, I was so excited for this movie to come out. And the 13th Ghost was one of those, I didn't necessarily like grow up with it. I more so finally, like, I would catch random episodes on the Boomerang channel, and then I finally sat down and watched it once the whole series was released on DVD. And I watched it with one of my best friends at the time. We watched it like all in one night, basically. We had like a sleepover and we binged it all. And we both were like, what? That's how it ends? And so like ever since I watched it, I've just been like, they've got to. Somebody at Warner Brothers has to go and be like, oh yeah, we never did finish that. Maybe we should do that. And I'm like, it's finally here, y'all. It's finally here.
That's amazing. That's a really good reaction. I like that. I mean, like I said, for me, it was just about being apprehensive. It's not one that it didn't like launch while I was watching Scooby. It's certainly one that we've just become aware of, like, as we've gone back into Scooby recently. JayBee, any other kind of initial thoughts that you wanted to add?
I mean, I was excited because it just shows that they've got some type of a willingness to revisit the old stuff, but at the same time, when I was rewatching the series, despite it being one of the only ones that I'd kept from childhood on DVD, I surprisingly remembered so little of it. It was a bit strange, but I was really excited going into this movie before we actually saw it. I had full high hopes for it, and yeah, I guess we'll leave it as that for now. I was just very compelled, at least. Like, the one character that really stuck with me throughout the series was Vincent Van Gogh. I thought that they were amazing. They reminded me of an almost like more gothical take on Doctor Strange, and so if they got that characteristic right in this, I was all for it.
Okay, great. So getting into the movie itself now, as I kind of said in my little brief intro, we start off with that kind of historic sepia looking story, and it's a young Vincent and his friend Mortifer as they're trying to collect the final 13th ghost. So they say that they need to trap all 13. There's all these other kind of monsters around, and they're saying that they want to return their 13 masters and that kind of stuff. So it certainly sets up, I want to say a quite dark introduction. I think
Yeah.
it's certainly set up like a sinister, okay, we're into this. This is the real ghosts again. This is actually going to be something really interesting. I was excited after seeing the intro.
This is where my first kind of problem came with it. And like I mentioned with Vincent Van Gogh, in the series, it's like Master of the Mystic Arts. You know, they've got the crystal ball, they're doing the spells. Whereas in this, and I do like this franchise as well, but I'm more associated their characteristic a bit like Indiana Jones. You know, either at the start or the end or the middle of one of their films, more ecological explorer versus mystic. So I'm wondering if this was before they got their powers. So I was a bit confused, but in total, I actually did really like this intro. I thought that they did a really good job kind of making it just seem a bit more menacing. I think it was maybe a bit too treating like the audience like idiots by making it black and white to like hammer into your head like this is in the past. I think maybe exploring that spooky forest with colouring and stuff might have been a bit more effective, but it did the job in, you know, letting us know that it was a while ago.
See, surprisingly, I'm not going to be as critical as JayBee here, because I kind of liked that kind of black and white sepia effect, because as well, obviously we're not there yet, but in the movie they do a flashback scene and again use that same colouring, so I kind of like how they had that distinction. So I wasn't critical of that, and I also again just thought, you know, Vincent probably got his powers after that. The one thing that I was really critical of here was that Vincent is quite obviously the one carrying the box, yet the ghosts and the shadows attack his friend when he's very clearly carrying the box. And so I know I'm kind of ruining the end right at the start, but like Rihanna said in the last episode, I think it was, sometimes she just knows. You get this feeling, you know. The second that happened, I was like, okay, if they're doing this for Velma, that she's going to have her unmasking, it's him. It's the friend.
Yeah.
I knew from the
that was
start.
literally in my notes as well, like, yeah.
It was like, it's like, why wouldn't they be chasing him if he has the box? He clearly has the box. He's not using some spell, some shield, Harry Potter's invisibility cloak. He's running out with the box. You can see that.
And also, I think it suffers from being Scooby to that extent, because apart from, like, Mystery Incorporated and stuff, they've never like dealt with physically killing a character off. So it's like in the back of your mind when you're watching Scooby and it seems like someone's been killed off, you're like, yeah, they've not been killed off.
Yeah, no, they're going to be back.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I would say I really, really enjoyed this intro. Smash, did you have any thoughts, feelings about the start?
I was honestly at first surprised that we were having a flashback. I didn't know if I expected kind of some history on Vincent or the Chest of Demons. But when it started out, I was like, okay, this is really cool, because this is, you know, the Vincent Van Gogh that is this mystic warlock and whatever, not the TV actor from Mystery Incorporated. And so I was like, great, we're getting some background on this character that we watched 13 episodes of and, you know, really don't know much about him and stuff. And so I'm kind of in the same boat, but I'm also was a little like, you know, knowing the original series, you know, kind of semi growing up with it. I was like 50-50. I was like, I don't think he's dead, but at the same time, are they finally gonna take that risk and kill off a character? You know, and they're just playing it off by, it was a flashback, so you didn't actually see it happen. You know, so I'm like, I was 50-50 on that. I was like, I don't know. I'm just gonna, you know, expect him to come back, but not be surprised if he doesn't. So that was kind of my 2 cents. I also loved the ghost, how they portrayed him. I mean, Millie, you and I talk about constantly, it's like, sometimes they're more scary when you just see the shadow or the silhouette of them than their actual, you know, presence. So there's my 2 cents.
I agree. I like with what you're saying about the shadows, like you don't see distinct figures, you see eyes. So like you could almost imagine that it's an entire cloud covering the top of the forest, which is another reason why I'm quite happy that it wasn't in colour, because I guess then they'd have tried to have done more with it. Right. It was just this, it was almost like this surrounding feeling, and yeah, I do think it was really immersive and really good. I genuinely did enjoy this intro, and I was going into this movie as I'm not gonna like it. So to get off to such a good start, I was like, oh, okay, maybe next week's not gonna be super. Rihanna, how did you feel about the intro?
Okay, so I liked it, but at the same time, I didn't. And I'm already hating myself for this because I just feel like I loved the whole flashback scene. First of all, I was kind of like, who the heck is Mortifer? Like, we have never heard of him. Like, there was no reference to him in the original series as far as, like, I remember. But I feel like it possibly would have been better. They did the whole, different color scheme because of its flashback. What if, okay, picture this. The movie starts out, we zoom in, it's a dark room with Vincent sitting in front of his crystal ball. And it's all, the green haze. And it goes into the crystal ball. And it's still that green haze, but it reveals, like, Vincent is watching his past in the crystal ball. I would have really liked to see that. And I feel like that would have given it a bit more of a spooky vibe.
Yeah.
And it would have also made some sense.
That's giving me, like, the opening of Cyber Chase vibes almost.
Yes. Like, I feel, and I really don't like myself for saying this because I have not really come across a Scooby movie that I would not watch again. And like, I'm not going to spoil the ending and everything of my final decision, but there were certain parts in this movie that I was just like, I really don't like that, or it could have been done differently. And I just feel like in some ways the ball has been dropped as time goes on, especially, they touted this as a sequel kind of thing. Like, it follows on, it's supposed to wrap up things. Why introduce a character that had not been mentioned before? But other than that, I mean, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I feel like you need to, like, they set this up as, I feel like they set it up so that it was for people who didn't even know what the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo were. And then just, if you're like, I think they've gone for that thing where it's like, oh yeah, it's going to be the parents watching with their kids, and the parents used to watch it when they were younger, and they've kind of assumed that stereotype of still like a young audience vibe, maybe.
See, I don't know if it's good or bad though, but I completely agree with you to the point where I think it was almost a waste of time rewatching the series, in that I think that this works if you have seen it or if you haven't seen it, which is good from a point of view of, we're not going to make you try and dig up a like 20 or so year old show to get context for this. And it's weird though, because I feel like what I like about this is almost what I'm going to later criticize next week's movies for. But in this, I really did like how inclusive they made it to people that hadn't really seen the show or that they were new.
Yeah, it was certainly really inclusive because, like, we're getting onto the titles now, and in those titles, sorry,
can I hear you say something?
Say what you were saying. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I just didn't want you to get too far. While we're on this page, I was just gonna say that the director, he's not the director, he's the writer. Tim Sheridan's the writer. My bad. Anyway, the writer of this film, he at one point said that he wanted to do this story of, there's basically two stories going on in one, where Fred and Velma are catching up. They're trying to get to the same page that Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby are on throughout this movie. And so he did this on purpose. I mean, for continuity wise, but also because he was like, that way, depending if you've seen the series, then you're following Shaggy, Scooby, and Daphne, and more so their story, and you're caught up with them. If you haven't seen the series, then you're more following Fred and Velma and catching up with the story and everything that's going on. So I thought that was really cool and really, kind of considerate that he'd even, do that, where, he could have totally just kept them together and been like, oh, the king just totally knows about this type of thing, So anyway, just wanted to add that before we got too far.
Yeah, story-wise, that was the best way to go about things. Now, I guess one could argue a better way to go about things is just throw all the kind of direct to like video movies out the window and just give us a movie version of the continuity from the show. But I think given the version we've got, they've done it the best that they could have done from that writing perspective.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say that this movie is very inclusive. I think, like we were saying, they did it very well for if it's the next generation of Scooby that had never heard of the 13 Ghosts. They did it very well for that perspective. And also, I guess, for the rest of us who loved the 13 Ghosts, or watched it growing up and stuff, then it was like, okay, there's some nice things here that we can enjoy, I guess. But that's where we go into the titles. Like, so we get the initial introduction, the history, and then the titles are pretty much a recap of the series, but condensed down into about a minute 30. So I know Rihanna's got some really good notes on the poem that kind of Vincent says, which I'm looking forward to kind of hearing, because I don't think my notes really go into the poem too much. All I said is that at this point, I don't like the voice of Vincent Van Gogh. I don't think it's deep enough, and I don't think it sounds sinister enough. Like, rewatching the series, for me, Vincent Van Gogh had a really deep voice. He sounded sinister. He was the authority figure. He was the one that everyone was scared of. If something went wrong, no one ever wanted to tell him. Like, and for me in this, he just sounded too light-hearted, like he wasn't as much of a threat or an authority figure. And also, the other thing that I really don't like about the titles, and I feel like this is going to be a conversation to be had, and that's Scrappy. Like, if you say you want a 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo movie, don't write Scrappy out of it. You've chosen to reboot that. You have chosen that you want to bring something back that he was a prominent character in. So either stand by your decision that you're bringing it back, or stand by the decision that you made in 2002 that from here on in is the villain.
I'm guessing that's all studio, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's not the writer or the director. I will say
Studio.
that writer is incredible, because I enjoyed the last movie so much. This one, I 100% love it and I 100% hate it. I've never been more split and passionate about a Scooby Doo movie, because I am, like, I turned around to JayBee at the end of this and said, I absolutely despise this and I absolutely love this, and this week it's going to have to be smash and pass, because I can't say smash because there's some parts that I hate. I absolutely hate parts of this, and we're going to get onto that, but there's some parts that I love so much. Like, there was one part where I was actively outright laughing. Like, I'm like, so I can't pass it. I want to watch it again, but I hate it. Like, and one of the parts I hate is that they can't ever stand behind, like, a decision. And Scrappy, for me, that studio's biggest mistake is Scrappy, because either they shouldn't have brought him in the first place, or they need to stick with the fact he's a villain.
So the story with Scrappy and Flim Flam, just while we're here again, Tim Sheridan again was like, okay, you know, they never captured Last Ghost, so let me do a follow-up and conclude it. You know, and so the studio was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, it's great. We have our movie. But the Warner Brothers was like, okay, here's your deal. No Flim Flam, no Scrappy, period. And Flim Flam, Tim Sheridan said, give me Flim Flam and I won't do Scrappy. And they said, fine, we'll 50-50 it. So Flim Flam wasn't supposed to be in it either, because the studio doesn't like him either. And so Tim Sheridan was like, let me rewrite him as an older character now that you will actually enjoy. He did actually try to fight for Scrappy, because he was like, I have a story where he will fit in with the gang and stuff. Like, please let me keep him in. And the studio just refused. And so to rewrite his story to not include Scrappy.
I just think that
I'm
actually actively angry over this. Like, it's like, why would you bring something back with him in it? Okay, so Scrappy and Flim, like, if you look at the 13 Ghosts, it's Scrappy, it's Flim Flam, it's Von Ghoul, Shaggy, Scooby, Daphne. If you want to get rid of Flim Flam and Scrappy, you've got rid of a third of your movie already. Why would you do that? And then to go to the point where when they're reviewing the series, they won't even put his silhouette in the titles is insane. Like, if you want to review the series, do it properly. Don't leave Scrappy out. That's what the decision you made, was to have him in that series. Stand by the decision that you had him in that series. If you've made the decision that you want to bring this series back and turn it into a movie, stand by that decision as well and have Scrappy there because he was in the series. Or if you want to stand by the decision that you made in 2002 that he's the villain and you never want him seen in Scooby Doo again, then don't bring back a series, like remake a series that had him in it.
I just hate Warner Brothers so much, you know. And I always get like the worst stuff in like premieres for saying this, but I'm gonna stand by it. I want nothing more than for Warner Brothers to go under and for Disney to take it over, right? Because they always do like the kind of little baby characters justice. Like Baby Groot is a fan favorite in Marvel. Like Baby Yoda is a fan favorite thanks to The Mandalorian. They could introduce a Scrappy that people like, and they're just gonna stick by it, even if they're not a big part of it. I just do not like this studio, and I know that's probably like, if anyone listens to this from the studio, they're just gonna go, oh, that JayBee and Millie, what are they doing? But if you are listening from Warner Bros, I hate you. I actually actively hate you because you don't know anything. Like,
And you can't do a reunion properly.
No, you can't.
I don't like Scrappy. I don't care about Scrappy. Quite frankly, if he was part of the gang as a permanent fixture and he was in every single one of the movies, I'd be tired of him and I would hate him. But one thing I do stand by is that you need to do things properly. And he was in this series, he should have been in the movie. They can't have they can't have it both ways. Rihanna, I'm excited to hear what you think of the intro, the poem, and Scrappy.
Okay, can you still hear me? Because like, Tattie's come and joined us, and she's running in and out. So
extra guest.
Special pass with an extra special guest of a small little Jack Russell. She's here. Okay, so the whole Scrappy thing, I am not a big Scrappy fan. I have made my thoughts very clear on Scrappy between, you know, especially with my family. I'm like, I don't like Scrappy. I don't really like his character, how he's written, things like that. But in the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, Flim Flam and Scrappy were such a good team together. I actually enjoyed seeing Scrappy in every single episode, which that is a lot for me. I did like the original character of Flim Flam, which is like, because I feel like it was just something different that we hadn't really seen before, especially, you know, a kid con artist. It reminded me of like an Oliver Twist kind of character. So I was annoyed when especially like there's one line where they're like, I think it was Velma, or was it Fred, who said, who's Scrappy? And it's like,
Velma,
excuse
what's
me.
a Scrappy?
Velma in this movie.
I'm sorry, but like you can't, like, he is related to Scooby Doo. Like they would have heard of him. So that annoyed me. But you know, the poem. Okay, so I have a lot of notes on this, and I'm really excited. So they made references to the original show, you know, going throughout the whole thing, but there were 2 episodes not mentioned at all, and that's Monstertainment and A Spooky Little Ghoul Like You. And it's like that kind of irritates me a little bit. Like I know they had restricted time, but those 2 episodes, you know, why do a poem about all of them but miss those 2 out? You know, it's kind of like, why do a sequel? Like, I mean, in some ways it's like a sequel. It's like tying everything up. Why do an episode if you're not going to include one of the key members? Like, just saying. But so I broke down the references in the poem. So the silhouettes of the gang being chased by the werewolf was a nod to the first episode, which was To All the Ghouls I've Loved Before, which is where, you know, in the Himalayas, kind of where it was all set, the first episode. And then Maldor the Malevolent, I can't say his name, because of the dragon from Goobra Kadubra, which, by the way, that episode, like, I really enjoyed because of, like, I turned to everyone and I'm like, Scooby originally had all of the Infinity Stones. So
Yeah.
The gang searching the mines, and it showed the Shadow Demon from Me and My Shadow Demon. I really am very apprehensive about enunciating these like names. The Marrakesh marketplace,
America.
and the reflective spectre from the reflections in a ghoulish eye, the Bermuda Triangle ghost from the Ship of Ghouls, Stonehenge was a reference to the Brewski sisters and Marcella from When You Witch Upon a Star, and then I think it was the clock turning backwards, which was Time Slime, and that was from It's a Wonderful Scoob. The gang being trapped in a comic strip is they were trapped by Demondo, I think it was called, from Scooby in Quackyland. The silhouettes of Rancor, Professor Phantasmo, and Zimbulu was from Coast to Ghost, the ghouliest show on Earth, and Horoscope Scoob. One thing I am a bit upset about, we didn't really see a reference to Bogo and Weird. You know, they were constantly helping all of the demons. Like, where were their references in this? Like, I felt like they were missing, and they were also key parts of the original series. So,
Of who?
you know,
Sorry.
I think they were. I think it was Bogo and Weird.
The two little ghosts.
Yeah, they. I don't think were mentioned, which upset me a lot because they helped the Daphne, Shaggy, Scooby, Flim Flam, and Scrappy quite a bit. Like, you know, they were trying to stop them. They in some ways helped them in some episodes. So I was like, where's the mention of them?
So here's the story on that. If y'all are ready, I have all these stories. So Bogle and Weird were supposed to be in the movie originally, but like we've mentioned before, right now the studio is in this supernatural doesn't exist in Scooby-Doo, so don't make anything real. But you can allude to it, you just can't confirm it. So originally, Bogle and Weird were actually going to have cameos in the temple, and they were going to be in a temple artwork as some of the monks, is that how you say it? Which was going to imply that before they died, they were part of the monks in that temple. But then once they died, they became ghosts, and we see their story. So unfortunately, that had to be taken out because, as I guess Warner Brothers said, that's too on the nose, and that tells people that have seen the original series that this is really super. And so instead, what they do is, I don't exactly know where. We'd all have to go like frame by frame, but they can be seen somewhere within those dark spirits of the flashback at the very beginning with Vincent and Mortifer.
I'm gonna say now, and JayBee said this before, Warner Brothers are terrible. They literally have the IQ of a dog turd. Like, I am sick and tired of them in this movie already, and we've not even got past the titles.
The titles.
Why would you say you can't make a supernatural movie, and then of all the series of Scooby-Doo, all the episodes that we've said it's going to take 8 years to get through, go, yeah, the 13 that are based on ghosts, let's make that, why not? How stupid do you have to be? They are absolute idiots at this point.
Oh, like, okay, and I've said this before, I think that that's probably the reason why Vincent's power was nerfed as well, but like, I understand that. We can acknowledge that, but then make him a superhero. Like, he already has so many ties on the similarities to Doctor Strange. And literally, a few movies ago with Batman, we've seen elongated man having real powers without Velma going, oh, isn't
What about kids? They were just rock stars, but because they were kids, they had to give them some stupid mega power flying thing.
Because that was a dream. They did frame that as a dream, in all fairness. Was it really? They alluded to the powers, but look, more thinking of, they have had superpowers canon to the universe, so just make them superheroes, or like, just cross that line. It doesn't need to be ghosts, it doesn't need to be ghouls. Maybe Vincent was bitten by a radioactive Benedict Cumberbatch and became Doctor Strange.
Let me tell you, if they didn't have the writer they had for this movie, they'd have never been able to make another Scooby-Doo movie again after this. It was the stupidest idea they've ever had.
Right.
If they didn't have the writer that, to me, because like I said, I have like some very strong opinions on this movie, and I've only seen it once. But and it's gonna get progressively worse, believe me. Like, I am genuinely angry at this point. But like,
Okay,
this is just
my thing that I can see, like, watching this movie, you know, how many times I have, I'm like, Tim Sheridan knew the story he wanted to tell. And you can watch it, and I mean, all throughout the movie, yes, you can see where Warner Brothers was like, nope. And so he had to go, there was a wire attached to that windowsill, you know, like, but then for me, I feel like you get maybe halfway through the movie, I don't know, probably after the Shaggy, Scooby, Daphne little music montage scene. I know this is jumping way ahead, but just hear me out for a minute. You know, I kind of feel like after that whole sequence and, like, you know, Shaggy and Scooby doing their little tricking the ghost and whatever, being the monks and it chasing them, is where basically Warner Brothers said, this whole rest of the movie right here has to be different. I seriously think originally Tim Sheridan at that point had a whole supernatural movie explanation for this, and Warner Brothers went, you have 2 weeks to finish this, but like these last 30 pages have to be fake. You know, I'm like, because like I mean, this is kind of spoiling, but I really enjoy this movie, but I can tell a jump at one point in the movie where it's like, okay, there's all these references, everything's going on, this is so much fun, and then all of a sudden it just flips and it's like, yeah, all that doesn't matter.
yeah.
I mean, I do feel very, very sorry for Tim Sheridan, because it's almost like he's on a paddle boat, desperately trying to get bucket after bucket of water, chucking it over to the side because Warner Brothers shot a cannon at the boat.
I'm gonna say this, right, and I don't care. Warner Brothers are so lucky who they've got. They've got an incredible writer for this. If they didn't have the writer they did, this movie would have been beyond terrible. They have incredible actors. Frank Welker, they are so lucky that he's stayed low for as long as he has, because he's amazing, and like, he is Fred. It's as simple as that. Matthew Lillard, like, everybody. They are such amazing actors. There are some amazing writers. There are some amazing directors. We've got to speak to people like who have been part of the series on the podcast and everything, and they are all such wonderful people. But nobody said it better, really, than, like, I feel like Grabstein made it clearer than anybody, and this movie makes it clearer than anybody. Warner Brothers need to do more. Like, they are lucky in who they know, because if they didn't have the actors, writers and directors that they do, it's done. It really is, because they don't market it properly, as was you know, established in that interview. It's just because there's fans that these movies survive. Like, we look out for the movies, we watch the movies, that's how it lives. It's not that they like market it or do anything properly. And then they give the writers stupid ideas like, hey, you know that Supernatural series? Let's add an unmasking into it. Let's like decredit the entire thing. It's so stupid. And don't even, like, honestly, when we get to Velma in this movie, Velma. I haven't even started with how angry I am yet.
No, because like, I'm angry at Velma. Jesus.
Like, I can honestly say that this is the Scooby Doo movie that I currently feel most passionate about, because I am, like, genuinely furious with some of this stuff. Like, I genuinely am. Sorry.
May I add something? It's okay. So, you know, and again, skipping a little bit forward. So, you know how it's, you know, they say, oh, it's Asmodeus.
Yeah.
So, this movie came shortly after, which means it was worked on at the same time as, I believe, season 13 of Supernatural, which was also where Scooby Natural happened. So, Asmodeus is actually a key villain in that season. So, like, I was like, is there a little, like, were they teasing this to begin with, that there was going to be a Scooby Natural episode before thing? But so my main issue is, like, the whole thing. I feel like they just didn't put and it's not really the writing, it's Warner Brothers themselves have not any effort into any animation project, because like I look at things like the Batman The Last Halloween Part 1 and 2. There was practically zero marketing other than, oh, here's the trailer, here's the second trailer. Now it's up to the actors themselves if they want to promote it or not. And I think it was because Jensen Ackles voices Batman in that. And he was, he posted up about it quite a lot. He was mentioning it at conventions. But it just seemed like everything was put onto him. Even the other people who voice acted in it, they didn't really seem to promote it as much as he did. So I think it shows that if you have a passionate actor that you're working with, they will promote it. They'll work because, they care about this. But I just, I would love to work on a few Warner Brothers projects in the future. So we don't want to shut that door before think. But they need to just think about things before they do it, because this could have been, there were so many things where it just seemed like this feels like a last minute change.
Yeah.
And it's a supernatural type series. It's supposed to be spooky. It's supposed to be dark, and it just felt like, and I don't really mean to offend anyone, but it felt like a millennial had taken over and been like, oh, we don't like this. We get offended. So we want it to just be, it's just someone thing. And also there's a bit right at the end with the chest, and that bit, when we get to it, I'm going to be very annoyed, and I'll explain that when we get to it. But it just felt like they're trying to please the new generation in some ways, the cancel culture, because they're like, oh, we don't want to risk being cancelled for having Scrappy. We don't want to risk being cancelled for, having demons and stuff. But that's destroying the original premises of the show. Yes, they want to keep it as Scooby Doo, but at the same time, Warner Brothers, you have it's literally called Supernatural. It's scary.
Yeah.
Yes, it's on CW, but you have a freaking crossover. Like, just go all out with this. There was a phantom. It was an actual ghost in Scooby Natural. Just go all out. Have this as a one-off spooky movie. Just, yeah. Go back to the original Zombie Island and Witch's Ghost. Because I was genuinely like, I turned to my brother at the end. I was like, you know what? They may as well have just taken the Witch's Ghost, crossed it with 13 Ghosts, and put the book with Sarah Ravencroft and Ben Ravencroft in the chest.
Yeah.
That's my rant over.
I mean,
Well,
sorry, I was just going to say, this is kind of off topic, but on topic. While we're attacking Warner Brothers a little bit, well, while I am anyway. This is me, like, I'm attacking Warner Brothers here. And not only, like, what we were saying before about, like, the people they know being the best part of it and what makes it live, the one time they decided to invest back into it was Scoob, and then they literally got rid of everybody who's kept them afloat for so long, kept Scooby afloat for so long, all the wonderful actors that have like been the ones that's pushed for it to keep it alive, who didn't like manage to stay like so passionate and like do such a good job. When they're like, okay, we're going to start investing in it again now, we don't want you for it, it's like, are you kidding me? They are the reason that it's doing well, because you certainly are not. Like, why? What? I don't
Why
get it.
did they let supernatural stuff in Scoob, though, and, like, not allow it here? Because this is a 2019 film, right? So very, very recent. But, like, no, I do agree with what you're saying completely, Millie. I'm more inquisitive than angry at this point.
Let's also, like you just said, JayBee, this movie came out in 2019. Let's also acknowledge the fact this was Scooby-Doo's 50th anniversary. And you're going to do this on the 50th anniversary year of, great, cool, Curse of the 13th Ghost, great, awesome, like, total grand celebration for the 50th anniversary. Then you get to the end and they're just like, heh, we pooped on you.
Seriously, next time Warner Brothers are like, hey, let's do an anniversary special, don't do it. Because that's what you wanted to do for the reunion, and look how that turned out. Look how this turned out. The next time you're like, let's celebrate an anniversary, don't. Seriously. Just don't.
How about let us take care of it?
Oh, I'll do it for free.
You guys just
Do it, yeah, do it for free.
I just want a cameo. An animated cameo. It doesn't even need to be me. Just have my little chunky body, my silly glasses. Just have me in the background of a shot with Daphne in it. And I'm good. That's all I need. Yeah, I'll be an extra, an animated extra. I'll do it.
I feel like we should put a disclaimer at the beginning. Warner Brothers, we're not exactly attacking you. It's your not Warner Brothers team. It's your marketing team. We just aren't too happy with, and the people who believe that things should be different, when just leave them as it is. It worked as it was back then. It will work now. Just let things play out.
Yeah, and please note we're a bad influence on Rihanna. She's incredibly positive. Like, genuinely. Just incredibly positive. We're just bad influences.
I do have positives about this movie, I promise.
I've got a lot.
It's just certain parts where they just flawed so much, and it was just one big slap in the face, and it hurts so much. I'm genuinely, when I watched it today, I was like, I can't get out of my mind. It's 13 Ghosts. But after watching it, I was like, if I separate it from the fact it was supposed to be an actual demon, and it was supposed to have an actual ending that made sense, it's a good movie. Warner Brothers, you did a good job. The animation was good. The outfits were just, oh my gosh. Like, I want Daphne's hair on my head right now.
I want Daphne's everything on my head right now.
They had so many positive moments. The animation team, great job. I feel like you guys aren't praised enough, so, we're praising you right now. You did a great job on everything. Just something somewhere. There's one team in Warner Brothers that needs to be replaced ASAP with us. We need to take control. We need to rise up and say to Warner Brothers, look, we don't hate you. We're just very disappointed in you. And, it's like what my mum says to me sometimes. She doesn't hate me. She's not angry with me. She's just disappointed in me. And that's how we are with Warner Brothers. They are our child.
Right.
We are telling them we are very disappointed in them. And I don't know if you saw my New Year's tweet. I was like, hey, Warner Brothers, if you make things more available in the UK, if you, don't keep ruining Scooby for everyone, I will forgive you for all that you have wronged. I don't think anyone has seen that from Warner Brothers. But if they have, it's the same. If you start, putting effort into, especially their animation, because I feel like no matter what it is animation-wise, it's like even with Scoob, they got to a certain point and it was like, it was too much effort because it's an animation. They could guarantee it's in the cinemas. Kids will probably watch it. There was no point them, promoting it. They need to really focus on the animation team. It's no matter what, animation-wise, they just don't put the effort in.
Yeah, or even, I don't know, there's just a lot of problems. There's so many memes, even from, the DC fans, that, there was, this meme of, I don't want to spoil this movie because it's very recent, but in the latest Spider-Man movie, a few characters have, this nice touching scene where they're hugging, and it's, Marvel fans, Marvel Studios, that kind of meme where, the people being hugged with the Marvel fans and the people hugging them with Marvel Studios. And then there's another section where I think it's two, Batmen strangling each other, or, there's something like that, and it's DC fans, Warner Brothers. I think it's actually, The Flash and Superman.
Yeah, see, I saw a similar meme where it's Marvel fans been the ones proposed to with Spider-Man and all the new series floating around them, and then DC fans are just sat on their own with a coffee kind of looking over or something like that, because Marvel's just done so much recently. It's amazing.
But I guess one thing I kind of appreciate is the tone difference, because I actually do, I don't know if this is controversial, but I did quite like the voice actor for Vincent Van Gogh in this, but definitely I think that they were more jokey and less harsh, like you were saying, Millie.
Yeah.
But I also do appreciate that they were probably trying not to scare kids, because I think the Vincent from the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo would not really fit into this world that is presented now. Now, again, there's an argument made of, oh, well, it should be the same universe anyway because it's a sequel, which I agree with. But in this movie as it is, I think a harsh Vincent that people were scared of, it wouldn't really work, especially even with Flim Flam being a bit older. So I do appreciate that, and I just need to, I think I need to get into the mindset where I need to think about this more as something that is coming out for kids, right? Because for all it does have nostalgia in like the 80s, I think is when the initial show came out. I don't know to what extent that Warner Brothers or Scooby can count on people that were around in the 80s still being into the franchise or still caring en masse, although, you know, like, I think there would have been a lot.
So you've raised some valid points. I do need to interject here because, believe it or not, we've not even let Rihanna finish her like opinion on the titles yet.
Oh, jeez.
We've honestly just gone on this huge side tangent. Like, I think you were talking about the episodes and the references, and then we just like tangented completely away from it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that happened apparently. So, I went through all the episodes. I loved the poem. I got chills. I was like, okay, it kind of gave me hope, to be honest. I was like, okay, this is actually going to be following on. And I think that's also the thing. It's made out that it was going to tie up the series, and it just didn't. And, just quick little thing, Warner Brothers, if you ever hire me in the future, I love you, and hopefully you'll have improved. But I just, something went wrong as the movie went on. But the titles were good. Okay. The poem, it was unique as well, because usually it's like a funky little music scene, we've got a little dance party going on, a little chase scene happening. Instead, it was a poem, and it just told the story. It wrapped everything up into one little nice crystal ball that you could carry around and then throw at the 13th ghost, which wasn't actually the 13th ghost. But still, it just, I felt like it was good.
Yeah.
So that was my wrap up.
It was nice how they did do a poem and like paid some, respect to the series instead of just trying to make it one of their standard title songs. The second after the titles, I have an issue with.
Wait, before we get there.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I have all these stories about this movie. You guys are going to be so annoyed. You're like, we don't need this background stuff. But I'm going to tell you anyways. So, okay. I have two things about the opening titles. So, first of all, the whole poem thing for the opening titles, that was Tim Sheridan. The movie's production was nearly wrapped up. I think they had 2 weeks left. And Tim was like, in almost every episode of the 13 Ghosts, Vincent would do a little narrative at the beginning. He's like, I want to start my movie with that. But, obviously make it wrap up the series and whatever. And so I can't remember. He went to someone specific and was like, can I do this? Like, I know we've already kind of sent the voice actors on their way. I've already kind of said we're doing this, but he's like, I need this to be in the movie if we're going to do a 13 Ghost movie. And whoever he talked to, again, I'd have to look it up what her name was, but the lady was like, sounds great. We already have all the vision thing. It was just going to be pretty much the music that you hear in the background is all. And so he was like, the lady was like, yeah, just, phone up. I think his name's Maurice or whoever voiced Vince Van Gogh, and just, get him in real quick, and we'll do like a, quick little session and whatever. Anyway, so just long story short, that was the poem part was actually like a very last minute, like, can we get this in, please? Other thing that I wanted to note was, one of the last things he says in that poem is something to the effect of, and capture one last bugaboo, which is what he said in what Vincent said in the last episode of the series during the opening narrative. So I just thought that was a fun little reference too. So anyway, there's my stuff. You can move on now.
No, it's
See,
amazing. Thank
Can
you.
do good things. By accepting that, they did a good thing. I
Right?
think we should start praising them for every time they do a good thing. Like a dog. When you
Round of
praise a
applause.
dog. Yeah.
Good job, Warner Brothers. Woo! You're doing good.
Right, there's their 5-second applause. I hate the first thing we see after the titles.
Wait, how do you hate that?
I don't like, right? This is going to sound
Don't
stupid.
bash the table.
I'm angry. This is going to sound stupid. I absolutely hate that they open with Fred. And not just Fred, but Fred being a bossy, interfering pain in the butt.
No,
Like, he doesn't belong in this movie. He wasn't in the series. Why start with him? Like, no one's here to see him. He wasn't there in the series. I don't want to start with him being a control freak because he was being bossier than normal at the start of this movie. Like, you start with Daphne, you start with Shaggy, you start with Scooby. Why Fred? I don't know why, but just seeing his face at the start annoyed me.
Well, I think we're maybe overestimating I don't know if we're underestimating or overestimating the Curse of the 13 Ghosts series, or like the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo series, because I do kind of agree, but at the same time, I think that this movie is going to be all dependent on if you watch the series or not, because it's like, a part of me is agreeing with you, but at the same time, I'm at the space where, because the show wasn't anything important to me, I'm just seeing the movie more for what it is, and I'm directly continuing it as a point of view now of, not a reviewer as such, but someone that's consciously going to speak about this. And so I'm thinking it's a continuation from all the other notes that I've got from all the episodes that we've recorded. And I'm not really thinking of it that deeply. Whereas, you know, when we get to next week, because that's something that's important to me, I'm actively, you know, not upset or angry, but I'm more invested in it. So I don't know if they made the right decision or not, because I think if the shoe was on the other foot and it was a full, you know, kind of in the style, it was Baby Flim Flam, Baby Scrappy, there were musical numbers, you know, it was more of that tone. And if everyone hated it, well, what could we do at that point? I think what they were trying to do, at least in this opening scene, was maybe reassuring us that it was business as usual. And in terms of Fred's characteristic, I think they almost had to make them a little bit bossier and a little bit more abrasive, to contrast that with Daphne's more independent and fighting style. Like, I think, again, the 2002 movie did a similar thing where Fred wasn't that arrogant in the show, but they made him that arrogant so that Daphne's story arc of being more independent and stronger kind of made a bit more sense, as did, you know, was Velma's story in that movie. So I think that that's kind of what they're doing here a bit, although I think they do a better job making Fred more, you know, likable in this iteration.
See, what I'm going to say is, like you said, you're continuing on the notes that you've got in the book, but in the notes you've got in your book, we've just covered the movies. So you're looking at the chronology of the movies. If we look at the chronology of Scooby, which is what I'm looking at, because I think I'm like, in theory, if you look at like school years and stuff, I'm about a year older than you. So when I came home from school, I was in a similar position to Rihanna. It was like, I was watching the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo. So I'm kind of like, I'm treating this movie slightly less harshly than I'm going to treat the one next week, admittedly, but this movie does still have a place in my heart, and if you're going to reboot it, then you better believe that if you don't do it properly, I'm going to be as critical as I can, because next week I'm going to be absolutely awful to that movie. It's going to have to do something special to get a nice anything from me. Yeah. I've still not seen it. Rihanna, I'm going to turn to you, because like you said you're a big fan of this series. Am I being a little bit like over the top, or did you feel okay seeing Fred in the first season?
Do we need this? Because this is just the cold open. This isn't even really the core mystery. Like, I don't know if we're deep diving into this too much. Like, it's just a shot of the gang. I don't know if we're digging too deeply into this.
If I am digging too deeply, please tell me and we will skip over this.
I think I can slightly redeem it. Okay, I don't mean this in a bad way. I think you'll be understood. a little bit too harsh, Millie, on seeing Fred. But hear me out. Okay. Okay. So when I saw Fred, and I've put my DVD in 2 different DVD players. My instant thought was like, for some reason, his hair had a greenish tinge, and like 2 different TVs. It was like very, very subtle. So it might just be me seeing things, in which case I need to possibly see someone. But I was like, I said to my mom, because his eyebrows are still dark, and like that's just a character drawing thing. And I was like, Mom, Fred dyes his hair and he's been in a pool with chlorine and it's slowly going green. But that's not the point. I was like, okay, so they're going to introduce Fred and Velma into, the supernatural world. That's fine with me. I was genuinely up for it. I was okay. So we've seen it before in things like the Goblin King. In in the Goblin King, they don't really remember things, but like things like the alien invaders. Okay, we've seen them encounter things that are very supernatural. So I was like, okay, we'll probably have Velma be a little bit skeptical. Fred will probably be trying to like protect Daphne. Instead, it was like, okay, they're building up to Fred having a midlife crisis at 18. That is something I think every 18-year-old has done. I mean, I personally think I've just been going through a midlife crisis since I was born. But, it was like, okay, he doesn't know his place because he's always been, I've got to protect Daphne. I have to make sure everything's fine. And it's like seeing him in a different light. I think they're trying to build up to the fact that he himself, he's always been the trap guy. He needs another depth. I don't think cheerleading was quite that, road they should have gone down, but it gave him something that he had to find himself, and he had to realize, okay, Daphne can take care of herself. Like, she is one tough cookie. And my issue comes later on with Velma being like, oh, ghosts aren't real. Like, oh, the chest, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it doesn't make any sense. Like, who calls a demon Asmodeus? Well, guess what, Velma? If you look up, Asmodeus was an actual demon from, laws and stuff. That, she just bugged me this whole episode. And near the end, I was like, okay, you could just remove Velma. Remove Fred. Don't include them. Just go back to the beginning of 13 Ghosts. But at this beginning part, I was like, yeah, no, go for it. Try building something positive.
Yeah, I would say I was in a similar position. Like, I wasn't like, maybe at this point, I wasn't like they don't have a place in the movie. But, like, at the same time, I was like, okay, we're rushing into having them here. I don't know. I guess just to, like, skim over that, like, they changed Daphne and Shaggy's outfits. They kind of showed the ones that they had currently. Did you expect to see different, JayBee? I guess not, right?
No.
Okay. So yeah, the cold open. this is going to be this episode's a bit different. So yeah, the cold open. They try to unmask them, but there isn't a mask to unmask.
It's like Ned. The real identity of Ned is Ned.
And I thought that could have set up actually quite a good premise, that sometimes there just isn't an unmasking, and then the ghosts are real at the end, and it's like,
True.
Oh, no, I like that. Thematically, that would have been really cool.
Yeah, right? I like that idea. Like Rihanna said, hire us. But yeah, then they start to get like this thing where it's like, oh, there's legal implications to you doing stuff like this. So I thought this was quite a good like Mystery Incorporated-esque moment.
Oh yeah, and I compared it to that as well, which I really shouldn't do, because I did like, and again, like I think because we're getting to more recent movies now, from next week onwards, from next week until Courage, I'm just going to include like a brief spoiler warning. But like this sheriff obviously goes on to become more important, but by comparing it to Mystery Incorporated, which it very much is like that, it's like, well, they're no Sheriff Bronson Stone, clearly, and I don't mean that to like as a slight to the voice actor, because obviously, Patrick Warburton is just iconic, but they just don't even seem characterized in this. They're just there to say, don't do this, and I think that just leads to the gang actually reacting very probably erratically to
Very
that.
drastically. Like, I don't know how you go from that to selling the mystery machine. And I
Oh
think
my god.
I was like, I think I made you pause it when they sold the mystery machine, didn't they?
Then again, though,
I was like, what are they doing? I hate this. I hate it.
then again, I think it was in
I have
service to
no
bring back the
idea.
original van, right? Which, again, by what we've spoken
Yeah.
about before, that should have given the movie plus marks, right?
But isn't it enough that just like because of the type of mystery they needed it to be that van?
Yeah, I mean, they could have found a
Didn't
better
need
way.
to upset me so much.
Okay, with the van, from what I can remember, I believe because there were so many references throughout all different seasons, series of Scooby Doo, that originally, first, I mean, what's new Scooby Doo? We had Fred saying, "Oh, I would have liked to paint the van red," and they got the mystery machine from the Mystery Kids, so that kind of made me believe, okay, what if set around them? I mean, they are kind of. And then they paint the van. Fred and Velma go off to camp. Daphne takes hold. I always believed that it was the original van. I don't know why. I just got that feeling, and I was like, okay, it's the original van. They've just done it up a little bit differently, or it's like pre-mystery machine. Like they didn't really have money at that time to do it up, paint it as the mystery machine, or things like that. But selling the original mystery machine, I was like, how are you going to get that back exactly?
Yeah.
Are you going to you're going off to the Himalayas, which by the way I believe is a small hint, one to like the first episode of 13 Ghosts, but also a small hint to Chill Out Scooby Doo where they're in the Himalayas. But I was like, are you going to, is that your next mystery? Like Scooby Doo hunting down the mystery machine. They have to figure out what happened. Like that could have led on to something else. Like Warner Brothers, do something good. Let's have a mystery where they're trying to find the mystery machine. Let's do it.
I think this issue with the mystery machine and the mystery machine is like a key example of that Scooby Doo's created too many timelines. Like we have the timeline where like the mystery machine belonged to Daphne first. So then it's like, well, she's got two vans then. And then there's the one where like they called it the mystery machine, like the red van, it was the mystery machine. So it's like in one timeline that was the mystery machine. And then they've done this thing where they're like, okay, we want to do this, not realizing they've created an entire timeline that now needs to run alongside a different timeline. And it's like, okay, how do we fix it? Because we've gone too far.
The red van was bought from The Miz in WWE. That's why it's the mystery machine.
There you go.
Going to stop everything. And also kind of this makes sense with the double M because the Miz's real name is Mike Mizanin. So I mean,
There you go.
could be something. Probably a bit of a stretch, but
So Velma and Fred went off to camp after the WWE movies, which is when they'd got the mystery machine. And this is how it all fits in the continuity.
Oh, well, they actually messed up with the continuity a bit, because they didn't need to say it was cheerleading camp. Just call it, just make a Camp Little Moose reference, and people are going to be a bit happy. Damn it.
Yeah, that was an error, JayBee. That I like that a lot more.
Errors have been made. Errors.
They have. So this is like the kind of garage sale scene. Rihanna, I think did you say you had some notes on this part?
I did, and sorry if you can hear Tatty being a grouchy cow in the background. Lumpy. So I managed to figure out, and I found a list to double check against my notes, and I was correct. I managed to find all of the little hidden clues. So in the garage sale, we have the Black Knight suit.
Yes.
From Where Are You? What a Night for a Fright. The Ape Man mask from Where Are You? Never Ape and Ape Man. The samurai mask from The Samurai Sword, which I think also kind of hints to Daphne being skilled with everything. The Ghost Clown mask from Where Are You? Bedlam in the Big Top. The Abominable Snowman mask from Chill Out Scooby Doo, which I think also slightly taken back to the Himalayan thing, hints that's where they're going. The Spooky Space Kook suit from, Space Kook. The Shark Man suit, which was in the new Scooby Doo movies, the Secret of Shark Island, the werewolf mask from Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Werewolf, the witch doctor mask from Decoy for a Dog Napper, Mr. Hyde from Mask of the Blue Falcon, and I'm not sure if you saw this, but Daphne had a photo of the gang unmasking Mr. B-Man wearing the Moat Monster costume from Zombie Island, which hints to the return of Zombie Island. And yeah, that is my big note. So yeah, I feel very
good
proud of
job.
myself.
They could have got Seth Green and cameoing buying all the outfits. That would have been cool.
That
That would have been.
would have been funny.
Oh god.
One thing that I always find
Warner
amusing.
Brothers, you missed something.
One thing that I always find amusing is they have all this stuff, but whenever you see the mystery machine, it's empty in the back, other than Shaggy and Scooby's food.
Zoinks.
I don't know why, but like, I'm always like, well, it's empty. But yeah, they also have the crystal ball, and that starts to make this noise and so, and Shaggy, Daphne, and Scooby all start to panic, and so that's why we see Vincent Van Gogh for the first time in this kind of timeline, that time frame. And they say that they need to go and catch the 13th ghost, and I've put at this point his voice sounds better.
I remember this movie being a lot worse than it was, you know. I don't know if I was lucid dreaming or something, but I distinctly remember a scene in this movie where they're trying to figure out how Vincent did what they did with the crystal ball, and it's revealed that it was like a tablet, or like they were going to make up a technologically based reason for how we can call people in the crystal ball, and they didn't do it. I don't know where I've seen that. Maybe I slipped into the wrong timeline, but I was really glad that they didn't do that at least.
Yeah. Okay, so it's explained, the timeline's explained as it was the summer Fred and Velma were away at camp, and just like, you know, well, we have to do it, we have to go back. So then they start to get ready, and this is where we come on to Daphne. Now, I will say that this is my favourite ever portrayal of Daphne. I love what they do with her character in this movie. I'm gonna sound like JayBee for an episode. She has never, ever been better than this. I absolutely love it. Like, they've done a few movies where they've tried to show her as this strong character and independent, but this movie is the first one where they have really, really succeeded. Like, it's not just like, oh, well, we're going to put some pragmatics in and say that she's done this training, say that she's done martial arts. They didn't need to say anything about what training or what she'd been doing. They just delivered it. Like, she looked incredible. Her outfit was absolutely amazing. She just looked great, and her character, like, it just took her to an entirely new level. Like I said, they didn't need to say anything, they didn't need to contextualize anything. They did everything perfectly with her, in that she was, like, for me, the main lead in the series. Like, she was kind of like the adult figure, other than like Scrappy. Scrappy sometimes is like the adult one, but like, I think that she was kind of like the mother character with lots of naughty children running around, and so they took her to being this strong character again. But yeah, for me, this is the first time they've really got Daphne been strong right. JayBee.
I think you've covered it. That's pretty much what I was gonna say, apart from the fact that they get it right every time.
I just felt like with Sarah Michelle Gellar as Daphne, they're like, oh yeah, she's done all this training, like, she's transformed her body. Like, in Samurai Sword, it's, oh yeah, well, look, she can do martial arts. Whereas with this one, they didn't need to say it, they just did it. And I really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Do you want to know
amazing.
what I'm waiting for?
Which part are you waiting for?
I'm waiting for JayBee to say, you know, there should be a pop vinyl of Daphne in this outfit.
Oh, I wrote that down actually. And I know what the chase would be as well. If they made it into a soda, they could have it in like the skydiving helmet that they had at the start.
Yeah.
Or do like a retro one, the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo one. Have Daphne in a soda in the jumpsuit, and the chase is werewolf Daphne.
Can I just say that I had one kind of at this point of the
You've said
movie.
enough.
Yeah, maybe I have. But you know when Daphne's looking in at her outfit,
Her outfit's banging.
and she picks this dress up and she's like, I can't believe I ever thought this was stylish. I was like, isn't her main outfit a jumpsuit, not a dress?
Yeah, I think do correct me if I'm wrong. I think, was it similar to what she wore in, I can't fully remember. I want to say it was similar to what she wore in Zombie Island, but I don't know. I know the color scheme, like the pale lilac, but she definitely wore a jumpsuit in 13
It
Ghosts.
reminded me of what she wore in, or at least I think I'm thinking of the right one. I can't remember the series, but in the intro it has like buildings coming to life.
There is a series where she did wear a dress like it. I can remember seeing her in it, but 13 Ghosts wasn't it. They got it wrong. It was a jumpsuit. We rewatched the series and I was like, don't know what they're talking about there, but okay. So yeah, that was just one thing that I picked on up there, and I was like, no.
Oh, they could make this outfit into a Barbie. They've not done one of those for a while. Make it into a Barbie as well. Funko on a Barbie.
Something that I did like, that I thought was good, you know, when she's trying to restyle her hair, she briefly kind of gets a similar hairstyle to what it was in 13 Ghosts, you know, when she has that kind of full fringe and stuff. So I was like, okay, well, I'm glad that they nodded to that for a minute.
Yes.
Okay, then this is where they see the van for the first time, and instantly when we see it, it's like, that's not quite the same, but then they very quickly pick up on that and say, okay, this is the van with upgrades. And also, we've kind of touched on this for a while as well. It was like, Fred was upset, like, oh, you got a mystery machine without me. Like, is it called that? And she's like, no, it's not called that. And it's like, well, what does the MM stand for then? So yeah, that was a quite little fun skit scene. I liked it.
Was it given a name in the series?
They just called it Mystery Machine, I believe.
Yeah.
It was
Oh.
the Mystery Machine or the van. Like, I just looked up. Apparently, when it was set, so 13 Ghosts happened a couple of summers, like 2 summers beforehand, which for me, like going a little bit ahead, doesn't really explain the huge age up of Flim Flam. Like, that must have meant that like Shaggy, Scooby, and Daphne were like 16 or something, or younger at the time.
See, I noticed at the start they aged them up a little bit, because it normally says that Velma's like 15 and the rest are 16, but at the start it says that you're nearly 18, soon you'll be tried as adults and stuff. So it was like, okay, they've pushed the age up a little bit, so they're trying to compensate. But yeah, when you see Flim Flam, it's like, okay, well, he's aged at least 5 years. Take 5 off 17. You're telling me Daphne was driving the mystery machine at 12? Like, no. That doesn't make sense.
I bet she could, though. I bet she could.
Well, she rode a motorcycle, we learned at a very young
Yeah, well done, Millie. You're not paying attention to continuity. Yeah, it's Daphne. Get with the program.
And also, at this point, when they're like starting to set up in the mystery machine, we see Velma like having to just accept that she's gonna come to terms with ghosts.
Oh, she's not accepting anything. She's being annoying. Like her whole I understand using Fred and Velma as like ways to explain the story, but like, and we understand that Velma's skeptical, and that's understandable. But it becomes her entire personality. This movie, like literally, someone could ask Velma what day it is, and she'll end up telling you she doesn't believe in ghosts.
Well, to me, she wasn't being annoying at this part. To me,
well, and Kate Micucci was at her worst in this movie as well. Like, she's so squeaky. Like, it isn't just the performance. Like, if it was, and I hate to say this, if it was Mindy Cohn Velma, if it was Linda Cardellini Velma, if it was Sarah Gilman Velma, it would have sounded less irritating than having this yapping thing saying that they don't believe in ghosts. Every line. Like, Fred's like, I went to cheerleading camp. I don't believe in ghosts. There's a red mystery machine. Oh, I don't believe in ghosts. We get it. You don't believe in ghosts. Stop.
I don't think the voice is that bad.
She's
She
the
really
Scrappy of the
did. She's
movie.
the one that was like, "What's a Scrappy?"
Let me at him. I don't believe in ghosts.
The voice isn't that bad. It's what she's saying that gets annoying. But at this point, I wasn't annoyed. I was like, okay, do you know what? You don't believe in ghosts. This is your one line to get used to it. Say it once. That's it. You're done. Now sit down and shut up. Like, fine, you can have that one. But I get, like, so I'm fine at this point. I'm okay. I'm calm, but it soon goes.
I'm so sad for Kate Micucci though, because someone must be telling her to like change the performance. Because in Be Cool Scooby Doo, she's so good. I think she's on a level with Mindy Cohn, maybe even for the character a little bit more suited to what it is. But here, it was so.
But if she wasn't saying stuff that was irritating, it wouldn't be as bad to you.
Well, not as bad, but it'd still be pretty bad.
Now, when they are on the kind of road and stuff, when they first see the car, for some reason, it like made me think of the Speed Demon. I like suddenly like just saw
I
a
thought
little
Mystery
parallel.
Incorporated. I think there's like a similar green thing in Mystery Incorporated, like
Yeah.
Dead Justice. I
There's
think.
the truck ghost.
Oh, the truck ghost. Oh yeah, we should watch that again, eh?
Yeah.
Wasn't it with the diamond doorknobs? The whole like the guy
It
doing
was,
it.
yes.
Or have I just mixed 2 episodes together?
Was
No,
that the Dandy
you-
Highwayman, or was it not the Dandy Highwayman?
It was, you know, the episode when Daphne's going on the date with, is it when Daphne goes on the
Wait,
date?
is it the ladder? No, that's with the ladder guy, wasn't it? Which wasn't. Wait, was that the
No,
crystal?
It's the episode with avocado in it.
Is it?
And
Oh,
they,
Nick
'cause they think
Avocados.
that it's avocado because his family's was the one that stole the diamond, I think.
Is that?
And then, because we watched this episode literally a week ago.
Yeah.
And then it's not, it's the guy that Daphne was going on a date with, I think. But yeah, it's the ladder guy, because he says the reason that he had to do it was money, because the ladders is something that no one ever replaces. And there's like a green truck, I think.
I'm not sure.
That's how I remember it, I think. So yeah, they go to Vincent's house. Shaggy and Scooby are like, oh, we're not going inside. And then this is when we see Fred kind of, again, trying to find a way to fit in at this point. Like, hey, just 2 Scooby snacks. And Shaggy's like, no, this isn't how we do it. You say 1, we say 3, and then we agree on 2. It's negotiation or something. And then Fred's like, since when do you know about that? And then he said that it's something that he learned. Was that the first reference to Flim Flam?
Yeah, like a Flim Flam toy. Well, I guess apart from the silhouettes, I guess. They're like, oh, we learned from Flim Flam. And they're like, Flim Flam, who's that? Which is cool, because people watching it for the first time might not know Flim Flam, and so we get a good explanation for it. So I like that a lot. I enjoy it.
And then as they're walking in, either Shaggy or Scooby says, thanks, Daphne, to Fred. And for some reason, I actually actively laughed at that. I don't know why. I just thought it was funny. So I was like, at this point, I was like, this is an okay movie. I'm enjoying this. Then Velma's annoying because she goes inside and we find like howling speakers and the pulley system. And it's like, okay, again, get it out of your system. Just have this be your unmasking rubbish and we'll go from there. Still wasn't too annoyed with her at this point.
We'll see.
Then they find Vincent, and again, his voice seems to have changed from what it was in the crystal ball. I thought it was too high, and he just sounds too positive. Like, he just doesn't sound... He just doesn't sound like Vincent. Like Vincent, like we've said before, everyone was scared of him. When something went wrong, no one wanted to tell him, and then he's just there making jokes like, and boo and boo, and I'm like, oh gosh. I don't know why, I just find this really cringy and not good. Did anyone else like his little puns?
Yeah, I thought they were alright.
I'm a sucker for puns.
Yeah,
Like, I think you had that last time, so I was like, oh, he's deadly serious now, isn't he?
Because the thing is, though, when you do them, they're good. Like, your character is that you're a nice person, you are. But he's, like, meant to be like, I don't know, I think don't seem as fun.
I feel like they based him too much off of the movie star Vincent, who, you know, Shaggy and Scooby won a dinner with him. I feel like they based him too much off of that, which annoyed me slightly. But at the same time, I kind of enjoyed it because you know, there were a lot of references like, oh, I'm getting so old, I'm getting too old for this. And it's like, that's a classic thing to complain about.
Yeah, I like that. I like to think that Vincent is the type of person that doesn't socialize a lot, so in a weird way, he was genuinely just a lot happy to see the gang again.
Yeah. And I guess if we say that they are a bit older, I think you tend to treat people with more respect as they get older as well, so less like you're acting like a parent.
Yeah. I don't know. I like them.
Anyway, so they establish that nobody has the chest. And then we get the flashback, I think, at this point, that Vincent had found the chest and opened it, which is how the ghosts got out the first time. And then
So
doesn't
they've
Velma
let
say
out
who did
3
they turn
times,
out to be?
technically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, very, very Indiana Jones-like for Vincent.
Yeah, I like that flashback scene. It was nice. It was good. Again, it's kind of like I said with the intro, I kind of like that they'd used a different coloration to kind of distinguish flashbacks and stuff. I guess it was just done nicely. But yeah, then Velma's like, oh, who did they turn out to be? And for some reason at this point, I still wasn't annoyed with her. I feel like you've given up on Velma at this point though, right, JayBee?
Well, it's just the fact that they were told that she's been told that they were real, like, loads of times. And she just keeps going on and on and on. And it just annoys me because it's like Velma is so much more annoying in this movie than Scrappy ever was, and yet there's still legions of Velma simps that are like, oh, Velma, Velma, Velma. Oh, she's good in this movie, but then they like poo on Scrappy like in the next sentence. Like, it's just, come on. And I've got to say this, right? I think, and again, I love the majority of Velma like actresses, like BJ Ward, Mindy Cohn, like Nicole Jaffe, awesome work. But I would say if it wasn't for Linda Cardellini in the live action movies, the Velma fans would more than disappear in half. Like, there'd be practically no Velma Sims. Screw you, Cardellini.
I've got some very strong opinions of Velma, but I'm waiting until she's annoyed me in the movie to finally fully voice my opinion of Velma because it's not good.
This flashback, I have a little fun fact, and it's actually with the link between King Solomon and Asmodeus. There's an actual link because I'm like a big fan of like looking into different laws and things that happened and things people believe in and myths and legends. And in the Testament of Solomon, I think it's like a 1st or 3rd century text, King Solomon actually invokes Asmodeus to aid in the construction of the temple. So when we saw the Temple of Solomon, I was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, it kind of made sense why they chose Asmodeus to me. But I guess that's because I knew that little fact beforehand.
See, this is something amazing, right? Rihanna is literally encapsulating here what's missing from this movie. That is some incredible history, some incredible knowledge. It's genuinely fascinating, and it's amazing that you know that. But it's what Velma should be saying, right?
Yeah.
Like, she's normally like, oh, well, this is the history of this. This is why this is this. And instead, it's like, oh, so you unmasked it. Oh, ghosts aren't real. And it's like, for God's sake, just shut up. Like, that is an interesting fact. Surely that can't be a coincidence. It was known. It was researched.
Oh, yes.
So
and we were just watching The Mystery
we...
Begins the other day when Haley's Velma was like, whilst I've always remained healthy skepticism, this is the history and this is what dogs have been known for in this kind of social groups. Like, dogs have been notorious for being more in like tune with the supernatural. So it's like, you can have Velma being the clever one, obviously, but like, it's just, this is the wrong way to go about it. Like, rationalize it, like, okay, here's the history behind it. Maybe this is why the locals believe this. Maybe this is something to speculate on. But instead, it's just, oh, I don't believe in ghosts. That's ridiculous. Anyone that believes in ghosts it's hogwash.
I agree. It could have been an amazing Velma moment because, like we say, it would have had to have been researched. It wouldn't have been accidental that some, you know, really interesting history just happened to be put together. So you'd think they'd have like made more of the fact that they'd gone to the effort of researching it.
It could have actually explained as well, instead of it being one of Vincent's ancestors. Like, what if Vincent's ancestor was King Solomon himself? And the flashback is of Velma telling the story of how King Solomon, created Asmodeus and then decided, at the end, Asmodeus got too big for his breeches and trapped him in the chest. That's how the chest was created. It could have, that could have been something,
Yeah, that would
really
have been
cool
amazing.
to explore.
And that would also explain why Vincent wanted to look after the chest, because it was his ancestors' thing, so he saw it as his duty to continue it. Why he initially went looking for the chest, because it was in his ancestors' place. Like, that would have fit so much better.
I just want to say, before the movie came out, I had this whole theory, and I actually made a video on it, but I had a theory that Vincent was going to turn out to be the 13th ghost. And so, in a way, I was partially right. Anyway, just wanted to blow my head up there a little bit.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah, and then you get this sad, like, farewell scene as he has to be trapped in the chest at the end.
Right?
Why
Or
these people make movies about him?
true, right? My thing would have been that he would have been revealed to be the 13th ghost, but then after all this time with the gang, he's like, I don't want to do this, I want to be with you guys, so let me, become the protector of the chest, rather.
Oh, that would have been cool.
It would have been.
Or even
so
they like
bad.
sacrifice themselves to get in the chest to make sure it stays closed.
Yeah, exactly.
Aw.
I think when...
That's actually making me tear up slightly.
Aw.
I'm like picturing it.
Look, we all came up with a better movie.
we did. Okay, I think we're now... So, are we
they're
now
on
at the flight?
plane, yeah. So Shaggy's the pilot. There's a kind of funny thing to do with that. I'm just trying to move along a bit because I think...
Yeah.
So...
I mean, one thing about this scene is, it shows Shaggy and Scooby kind of taking a lead, been a bit more prominent, not just, the live bait at the end. They're kind of taking some direction, they're taking some lead, and it kind of shows that, without Fred and Velma there, Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby managed to actually be quite competent. So yeah, they fly over there. This is when they split up. So when Velma and Fred go to the post office looking for the parcel, we see a little shadow and some eyes, and instantly I knew it was Flim Flam. I was so happy.
The yellow as well. Like, I like that a lot. And I do like this Flim Flam, I don't know if people hate it because it's so different. And I don't even mind the kind of aging because, like, me being a bit of an older guy now, like, if I picture myself at year 7 and if I look at, like, some year 7s that, like, just roam about the streets now, they look so much older than I did at that age. So can I believe that in the space of a couple of years, a kid can have that much of a growth spurt? Maybe not, but give it 3-4 years, okay, yeah, and then I can suspend my disbelief a bit. And I think they gave Flim Flam a lot of kind of, not edginess, but they made them wacky, especially with the kind of selling point of view that I can definitely imagine it as an aged up Flim Flam. So I do really like this take of the character.
I also kind of like how they don't announce it to be Flim Flam from the start. So it's kind of left to our speculation a little bit. For all they've got like the colour jacket matching and stuff. Obviously, they don't tell Fred and Velma who it is because that'd probably change the dynamic there because they'd be a bit more jealous of who it was. Because they seem to get quite defensive, like, you even started to form another gang with Flim Flam and stuff.
I thought it was a bit of a waste of potential that they kept Flim Flam so much apart from Shaggy and Daphne and Scooby for the majority of it, because I think in the end, if you just get rid of that little bit of exposition, then all of the kind of Flim Flam scenes kind of just serve a little bit of like exposition or filling runtime. But I did enjoy it for what it was.
We also get a scene of Avalanche. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. We keep doing this. I'm sorry. I was just gonna say this is where I feel bad because Tim wanted Flim Flam to be a surprise for the movie and not be like known that he was gonna be in the movie till you like put it in and watched it and surprise, he's in it and stuff. But again, we can harsh on Warner Brothers here. He was so upset with the trailer because they just threw Flim Flam into the trailer and everybody automatically was, oh, that's gotta be him. And so I'm like, oh, Tim had this whole like moment in the movie to like reveal who it was, and it got ruined by the trailer.
Yeah, the trailer did ruin
Warner
it.
Brothers, we are not happy with you. You do not get a Scooby snack for
I don't
this.
think I saw the trailer.
See, I just feel like the movie built up a lot of really good intrigue around the character. Like we said, it was designed for if you'd not seen, the 13 Ghosts before, it was enjoyable. So, like, they didn't make a big thing of this is flim flam. It was just a nice character, but if you knew kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was done so nicely. So, yeah, to have not had that spoiled would have been so much better. The avalanches in this, I don't really like. I feel like they're
It went on way too long.
They go on too long. There's three of them. And they're so over cartoonized as well. Like, the amount that they manage to travel, how they can travel faster than an avalanche, how they're jumping over mountains and yet all the snow manages to follow them.
Did they use like old
It's
sound
just
effects from the
so
show?
annoying.
Because I noticed that they were using different like jumping, like woo, little jumping noises. But and I was wondering, I got thinking maybe they used the ones from back in the original series. But
I don't know.
I think sometimes they did. I know at one point, and I think it's very brief, but when when Asmodeus turned into that bulldozer head thing, obviously that visual is a callback to the first episode, but they also did a little sound effect there.
And then I guess in between the avalanches as well, we see Fred get caught in a trap, which I think kind of just shows already again that they're out of their comfort zone. Normally they're like the king of traps, not the one getting caught in the trap. So I guess that was a nice little reference. They find a box, it's not the real one. And then we see the ghost hunting room, which I think lines up quite nicely with something Smash was saying before about kind of like Ghostbusters inspired stuff.
Yeah.
Just like, you see ghosts when you're little and it kind of affects you so much that you have this entire room of stuff to make sure it never happens to you again and that kind of thing.
True.
Velma and Fred are just like mysteriously like picked up out of the air. And then at the temple Amadeus is when I think they find the box, right? It's
even the
Amadeus.
movie was finished with Velma.
Yeah, just like, okay, it's time to get rid of
Yeah.
her.
They just picked her up and set her off.
It's what we want to do to Warner Brothers sometimes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Warner Brothers. Sorry.
Just take that office up that controls Scooby, throw it away. Let's get a movie.
is this before or after the song?
This is
Before.
Before, yeah.
It's in the temple. The song is when they're like, I know it's like a bit further on, but I really like that chase scene, like where they're,
Yeah, I love that.
it
Like,
was so good.
oh, that was released like on an album. So it might have been. I don't know if it was, but like that's one of my favorite Scooby songs ever. Like I was vibing so much into like Scoobystition. Oh man, like that's so good. And it just feels like so long since there's been a proper banging song in the Scooby movie.
Right.
And they did it for this one. And I honestly felt like it was, oh my gosh. I would watch this movie again just for that song. I'm not kidding. It's so good. And
I'm
the
telling
scene that
you.
it's paired along with is awesome. Like, oh, top 5 Scooby moments.
So much that's good with this movie is because of freaking Tim. Like, he's the one that wrote that song.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, I need to interview that guy.
I want to interview him just to tell him that he saved this
He's
movie.
great. Oh my god. I love that song. And again, I didn't even know you wrote the song, so like I'm being real. I love the song. Oh.
Okay, so they're at the temple. Daphne has an amazing scene here. You know when she does that kind of like slide and then leaves the stick under the door so it doesn't fully shut? Like, I was literally cheering for her. I was like, oh my gosh, they've done it right.
Yeah.
Like, she's just incredible. Like, growing up, Daphne was like one of my idols. Like, watching TV and stuff, she was just a character that I saw and was always like, I want to be like that. And then for her to be that good, I was like, yes, this is what childhood me was backing. It was this Daphne. And so I guess that's something they got right because obviously, you know, the 13 Ghosts was what I watched growing up, so to kind of get that, yes, this is what young me was backing, then I guess they did that right.
Perfectly absent.
Warner Brothers gets a Scooby snack for this. It's good.
And then I think, is this the song you were talking about? There's a lot of chase sequence. Or am I
It would.
getting it the wrong
I
time?
think it would be at this point. And again, well,
Yeah.
Millie, what did you think of the song? 'Cause I don't think.
I will admit
Oh no.
that I don't really pay attention to music too much in movies unless it really jumps out at me, like the Loch Ness one does. I didn't actually take a single note on the song.
Well, you're
it
swine,
didn't
aren't
stand out to
you? You
me.
actually are genuine swine.
I know, I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
I can't
I'm sorry.
So
believe
much
it.
love in this episode.
Like, music's my go-to thing. Like, I love music. Like, play a bit of a soundtrack from any movie that I've seen, and I'll be able to tell you what movie it was, when it played.
But me and you are polar opposites. Like, we've established this. Like, where I'm 100% serious, you're 100% fun, and like consequences don't matter. Like, I watched the movie for the story, the script. You're just like, oh, the soundtrack in that was amazing. Like, we are everything cut in half.
But how do you listen to some of the dog turd like rappers and stuff that you listen to, and then you don't appreciate this masterpiece?
I'm sorry, I
The rappers.
just didn't note it down. One thing that I do like in the kind of chase bit though is when Amadeus says that they're a size 13, and obviously it's the 13 Ghosts.
Hey.
Wait,
Yeah.
Oh, I never noticed that. That's funny.
then the next bit, the next part that I've got noted down, which I think is just stupid, is when Velma allegedly doesn't need glasses anymore.
I don't think
She
I
can
remember
see
that actually.
everything
Yeah, like, oh,
clearly
just after
now.
seeing ghosts, I see everything clearly. I don't need glasses.
Oh yeah.
That reminds me so much of in Scooby Natural, where she's there and she's like, I thought I was blind without my glasses, but turns out I'm just blind. I don't know why that made me think of that so much, and I was laughing.
Oh, that's amazing. And this is when Fred becomes a cheerleader.
Scoobystition.
I think there's other things they could have done with that. Like we said, like they could have just sent him off to Camp Little Moose. It didn't need to be cheerleading camp. I also don't know that it benefits too much into the story. And it's kind of like, why do something that you're saying is like a big part of them and then you're never going to pick it up again? We're never going to hear about this again.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you really need to change the character just for one movie and then you're going to act like it was never anything anyway? But I guess it serves the purpose of getting them to believe in themselves, and like it ultimately turns it around. So next part, Fred can't drive the mystery machine.
Yeah, what is that? Is that like the difference between an automatic and a manual?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because in America, correct me if I'm wrong, I think cars are predominantly automatic.
Oh, I want to move to America. See, why do
They
we
are
mess
now.
around with all that stick garbage? Because it's the worst thing in the world. Like, we're
I
so
love driving
backwards
like that.
in the UK. And the weird thing about some of the UK yobs is that, like, because a lot of them, they're very, very stupid. They spend all their money on booze and alcohol and, like, drugs, that, like, they have to buy, like, the cheapest stick thing. And then when they see someone driving an automatic, they're like, oh, you're not a real man if you can't drive the stick. I'm gonna move to America. Even though you've got guns, I just want men that can drive automatics comfortably. There, I said it.
So
I don't like the UK.
I mainly want to move to America, one, so I can get my hands on the OG Mystery Machine, and two, so I can get a Chevrolet Impala, a 67 Chevy Impala. Like,
Yeah.
after I get that, I'm happy, because I can't find them in the UK, mainly because, you know, it's an American car. But, like, I think it's kind of funny to have that flaw in Fred, that, you know, he's always been like the gearhead, and for once, you know, he's actually having to learn. He's having to listen and learn, and it's something that he doesn't really do much in the show, I feel. And,
Yeah.
you know, he's always like, oh, hey, here's a trap. The trap never goes well, but somehow, you know, it all turns around well. And this time it's like nothing is going right for him, and it's not turning out good for him. And he's actually had to learn, and he's growing. And, you know, it's like, it's kind of like seeing Flim Flam in the beginning of the first episode of 13 Ghosts to this movie, it's like, oh, he's grown. He's grown into more than just a con artist. He's grown into a super con artist who hasn't been caught by the police yet. So I kind of weirdly enjoyed it.
I agree with this being like the start of the best of Fred type thing, because when I think about a strong Daphne and I think about Fred being the support unit, I'm thinking about Zombie Island, where they're the camera person and producer that isn't insisting on being in front of the camera, but like when Daphne's just doing her thing, at that point they're kind of like, oh well, let's, without Fred's like encouragement, say let's just have a bit of an appreciation for the work that Fred does behind the scenes. And I think this almost, if they didn't retcon the damn thing, like it's not about that, but this would have been the perfect continuation, you know, leading up to an eventual Zombie Island that's in this version of the gang's future. But alas, no.
So we also then go to Skydive Daphne, which honestly, it looks like JayBee's notebook at this point. I've put Skydive Daphne slays. Like, she's amazing.
Yeah.
I love her quote where it's, I don't want to jump. Well, you don't have to jump because I'm going to push you.
I'm gonna push you.
Oh, that's amazing. It really is. Like, Daphne's character in this is just the best. They also manage, so then it cuts back to Fred and Velma. They manage to wipe out the car, their green car, at this point. I'm looking at JayBee for confirmation.
I'm forgetting.
Okay. We'll pretend that happens then. And Daphne, Shaggy and Scooby have got inside and they see Vongul and Amadeus kind of having a little standoff in that, like, hall bit.
Yeah,
I thought this was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. But it sets up something that turns out to be really annoying. You know, when because he's like, you can't hurt me because you can't open the chest. Mm-hmm. And then they open the chest. So it's like, well, why didn't you just kill him 2 hours ago when Daphne was like away?
True.
It's like you could have dealt with this really quickly. So anyway, to kind of prevent that, Scooby, Daphne and Shaggy dress up as the 14th ghost. Then Flim Flam, Fred and Velma arrive with all the ghost stuff and they're gonna like shoot Scooby. But then...
Okay, but I love the little reference of lots of luck joy juice right there.
Oh, yes.
I'm so glad I'm not the only one who picked up on that.
Oh my god, from like the first episode, that thing that Flim Flam was trying to sell to like the locals, and then the plane crashes and I was like, I told you this town has bad luck. Oh, I did like that. That's the Scooby snack for Warner Brothers.
This is also where Velma says, what's a scrappy?
Oh.
And this is where I start to get angry.
They do mention Shaggy's red shirt, too.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, and Shaggy's also in like a red Hawaiian shirt in the yard sale, which is, again, maybe that's a
that was a
reference.
nod.
Daphne Station.
But yeah, what's a scrappy? This is when I start to get angry with Velma. I'm actually fine with her until now.
You and
now
everyone
like,
else.
Okay, it's time.
I want to break her glasses. Oh, she doesn't need them.
We should use the vacuum spook on her.
Yeah, just suck up the glasses. Just send her away. Send her somewhere. Make her Frankenstein again, and just leave her in a castle far away.
And like, this is where this movie heads downhill quicker than any one of those 3 avalanches, because it suddenly turns terrible, absolutely awful. So Asmodeus opens the chest, and it says that the Vincent's on stuff, then it opens the chest, and it's like, what? How? You're a ghost. You need a human to do that. How did that happen? Wait, did the 11 ghosts just escape? Unmask Van Gogh's friend? It was like, okay, well, this is predictable and it's getting really annoying.
Ooh, but that was a good Velma moment, I've got to say, because Velma uses the logic of the supernatural world that she's been given and says, okay then, by that logic, this doesn't make sense. And I did like that Velma moment.
Yeah, but of course she was going to get the unmasking moment because she's been trying to sabotage the movie from the start.
But still, I did appreciate that.
So yeah, then it turned out to be the wrong chest, and it's like, I'm sure Shaggy and Scooby, who are petrified of ghosts, that like had to trek for like all through the night in Alien Invasion because they stayed in the mystery machine because they were trying to avoid any threat of anything, would have been slightly more aware of what the real chest was, and that they wouldn't have had a fridge freezer one where they were going to be opening it frequently in case they unleashed 11 ghosts on themselves.
Oh, but they
That
do
was
set it up nicely when
stupid.
Flim Flam said that he sold one a long time ago, and I did like that.
I agree, but Shaggy and Scooby's characters don't
They
fit
probably
with
wouldn't
that.
have bought one, no. Especially because don't they say that the Scooby was like traumatized at the start of this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
isn't there like an episode of it where like they have to take him away because he got so traumatized
Yeah,
in
they have to,
13 Ghosts?
Like,
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to be
Typical.
buying one of those chests. I hate to break it to them, but they got it wrong.
just some merch. Oh, I'm traumatized. Where's the gift shop?
And I
I
was
mean, it's something to carry around their food. Nice little memento to. Oh, were they trying to break their food addiction?
Ah. Yeah, they're gonna go cold turkey.
Maybe.
Yeah, Millie.
That would have been a little bit of a plot twist. But, like, hey, we're going to stop you from eating all your food. So we put it in a chest
So
of
it's gonna
demons.
rot.
And then, they're just terrified of eating any food at all now because they smelt sulfur.
Maybe. I mean, I think it's good that we're at least trying to find an explanation for it at this point, because to me it's ludicrous. It's just mad.
But they're good at one thing. They are good at one thing, and that's leaving it open for our interpretation. We are making it better for ourselves.
I think
So
it's
we
because they
don't
don't have the
end up
answers
crying.
themselves. And then we get Avalanche 3.
Oh gosh.
And then we see the ghost of Vongol, of Vongol's ancestor.
Name Vongol.
Vongol's ancestor. Like, and they're like, oh yeah, it's like they're the good guy, and like they were trying to redeem themselves. And Velma's actually helpful at this point, like, oh, this word means this. They're finally resting.
Yeah, that was good.
And
This
it's
is
like,
good
come on,
stuff.
Velma,
This is really good
you've
stuff.
almost got to the end of
Really,
this movie,
really-
and I'm so proud of you. Like, I'm genuinely proud of you. You might have just nearly wrecked it with an unmasking, but you're bringing it back, and I am so proud of you.
Yeah.
You've done so well. I'm so happy with you. Thank you. You aren't the annoying pile of poo that I thought you were. Thank you so much.
Oh my god.
And then we get this really
2
nice
seconds
moment
later.
where Fred and Daphne are looking at each other, and then they nearly kiss, and it's like, okay, do you know what? I will overlook that you've messed up with the 13 ghost thing, because they did. Like, why did Vongol need to catch the 13th ghost in the intro if he didn't need to catch it at the end because it was a good ghost? Surely he'd have known from then that it was a good ghost, and it wouldn't have been so sinister trying to catch it. Or are we saying that he never caught the 13th ghost because it was the illusion of his friend, and the 13th ghost was never caught and it was actually a good ghost?
That's actually a stupidly good point that I've never ever questioned until now. Because if he did catch them all, then there's a canonical 13th. Or would it be still him? No.
But what I'm
you're
saying
right.
that if the friend set it up, then he never caught the 13th ghost in the first place
time.
because it was staged by the friend. So because the 13th ghost never bothered him, then the 13th ghost was actually a good ghost,
Then
and
again,
it was
yeah,
never
they did
caught.
say that it was acting as a guardian angel for Vincent.
Yeah, so it
But
doesn't
then,
matter that they
by
never
that
caught
logic,
it and that
why
the friend staged
doesn't
it.
the guardian angel help out in the original series? I didn't think of that.
So I actually this partially why I actually really love this movie is because it leaves for interpretation. So I actually have an entire theory of what's happened here. And I actually made a video on it too not too long ago. I have it in a note somewhere. If I can find it, I can elaborate on my theory if you guys want to hear.
I guess if you know where the notebook is or whatever,
I found it.
we do the last little bit and then we can hear it in your like summary at the end.
Or do you want to hear it
Okay.
now?
I thought you said you had to look for it. I didn't know they had it.
Oh, okay.
Did you say you had to look for it?
I found it, but I'll save it for a minute. But I do have it.
That's amazing.
Smashy station.
But yeah, we've reached this really nice bit in the movie. Like, Velma's helped, the ghost's at rest, Fred and Daphne look at each other like they're about to kiss, And then Velma happens.
Oh.
And this is where I get angry, okay? This is where we're finally... Because I've never actually, in this entire series, said what my true opinion of Velma is. And that is that I actually hate her character. Growing up, I actually despised Velma because she sucks the fun out of everything. And this movie is no exception. They had a perfect ending, and then she has to open her annoying little mouth and explain everything like there's logic. Like... This series existed and was fine. This movie existed and it was fine. You just ruin it. You're like, I used to hate her character so much because if you were enjoying a movie or enjoying a series, she always had to come in like, oh no, this isn't right. And it was just like so annoying. And that level of annoyance is there with this. I always disliked her character, and this movie is the epitome of why. Like, I genuinely think part of the reason I enjoyed the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo so much was because she wasn't in it. And this movie just proves that. If it wasn't for Linda Cardellini and the other live action Velma, I would never have liked Velma.
Oh, BJ Ward Velma's peak. I love BJ Ward.
Yeah, but it's just how her character's written. Like, I'm a know-it-all. I'm the Velma. Like, JayBee will tell anybody that'll listen, I'm the Velma. And I've always said if I met a version of me, I'd hate them. She's a version of me and I hate her. Like, I genuinely hate how you can be enjoying Scooby-Doo and it's like, okay, but let's end the fun. Let's bring logic into it. And I genuinely think that this movie's proof that Scooby-Doo would have been better without Velma. Or at least for this movie it would have been.
I think Velma used right is good. I think the worst Velma is when they spread misinformation to, I guess, kids. Like, I do regret passing this movie, but I'll stand by at least that one of the worst things that Velma's done is like dumb things down, like in, you know, Monster of Mexico, when they're like, oh yeah, this is Mexico's Bigfoot. And it's like when the smart character is actively saying wrong things, you know, kids are going to pick up on that. And so for all I think that this is the most annoying Velma, I don't think that this is the most damage Velma's ever done.
For me it is. This movie was an outright smash at this point. I loved this movie, and she opened her mouth. I can sit here and tell you I despise Velma. I'm never going to see Velma the same way after this movie. They messed it up, and they messed it up big time with her. Like, I absolutely hate what they did here. I feel like it's unforgivable. And if it wasn't for her, I would love this movie. At this point, this was one of my favourite Scooby-Doo movies. And she did that. Like, she wrecked the ending. Her character is it's an absolute killjoy. Whenever something's good, you can guarantee that it's going to be Velma's character that wrecks it. And that's exactly what they did here. This movie was a perfect straight 10 out of 10 if she didn't have to open her mouth. I am absolutely furious at how bad she managed to get this. And that's my Velma opinion done for the movie.
Velma Station.
I hate it. Anyone any Velma opinion?
Just that we should all stand Daphne. Daphne's where it's at.
See, I was always the Velma. You know I'm the Velma, and I always wanted to be the Daphne. I said if I met a version of myself, I'd hate them, and I think it's fair to say that I've seen one and I don't like it.
Hashtag Daphne supremacy.
Like, literally, JayBee, look at my notes for this bit here. Like, I can't read it out.
Well, just replace Velma with 2 Daphnes, and I think you've got a good thing on your hands.
So she insists that the 13th ghost isn't real, in case that wasn't evident enough.
Yeah, you've spoken enough.
And then there's the Shaggy as the flight attendant and Scooby as the pilot, and they're leaving.
Yeah, what's everyone's opinion before Velma here goes off on another one?
I love the whole like air hostess Shaggy and Scooby. They make me smile. But I'm honestly just sat here like, am I feeling bad for dressing up as Velma for Halloween last year? Like, please don't hate me, Millie.
No, it's like...
To be fair, if I saw Velma, I'd be pretty scared.
I said, like, live-action Velmas, I like both of them, and that you want a cartoon Velma, so it's fine.
I just can't believe that there are people out there that are actively like, oh, Velma's better than Daphne, Velma's better than Daphne. Like, get your head checked. Like, come on. Like, mental health is a lot more accepted now. Just go see someone. Like, you know what I mean?
My
Like,
God.
I like
That's a bit
love.
far.
No. I love charity, right? If you prefer Velma to Daphne, get help. Like, it's bad that your parents didn't raise you properly,
Oh
but
my
like, if you comment down below, I will help you. I'll be your internet parent. Just get help, please.
Free therapy.
This has gone taken a turn. I was coming at Velma, not the people that like.
It's just not right. Okay, if it's Cardellini, fair enough. Any other iteration of Velma, like, come on, dude. Let's just take it down a notch.
I just said it was me with problems. I wouldn't have said the people.
No, I'd say the people. 100%.
What
I'd
do
say
I
the
think
people.
about
Right,
what?
Smash.
Where am I? What are we talking about at this
Velma.
point?
I think
Velma?
hostess.
Okay,
Or Velma.
when I first saw the movie, I was annoyed. And then because I mean, spoiler alert, this is kind of the start of a little trilogy. So by the time we got to Happy Halloween, oh, I see her arc. I understand. Okay, I can accept the last two movies. But then they throw it all away in the Scoob, and so I'm back to being angry with her here.
Okay.
My 2 cents.
I feel like this is the end of the movie and it's like smash or pass time, right?
Yeah.
So, JayBee, as always,
What
we
if
have.
Rihanna-
Oh, sorry.
One little note about the ending in the credits. It's the I think hang on, I've got it in my notes. It's the second Scooby Doo movie. Hang on, where is it? It's the second Scooby Doo. Where did I put it? It's somewhere here.
I guess what you're looking
It's
for.
like the second. Oh, here we go. Is that it? It's the second Scooby Doo movie where, oh, what's his name? I'll come back to it 'cause I've lost it.
I guess I'll just say I love that Flim Flam said their goodbye with so long sports fans. I thought that was really cool, and I also love that he got a kiss from Daphne. Like, my guy right there. Flim Flam's the man. Flim Flam is the man. My guy, Flim Flam, my main man. Big up Flim Flam.
Okay. So, JayBee, smash or pass?
Well, in the words of the
This
great
is a scary
confused
one.
one, I'm gonna say smash. I actually do think that this has a lot more that I like than I dislike. Like, Velma is really, really annoying. I want to chuck her out of the plane. But like everything else I can look past. I think is fun. Like the music, and like I think Vincent Van Gogh does a really good job, and it's kind of cool that they use the kind of other characters. It's almost a bit like they do fit into the mindset a lot more, like if you say Shaggy being the pilot, Daphne being the one that's driving and flipping around. I think it's amazing, but I don't know, I think it also highlights some of the problems that the initial show had, whilst also setting a few more problems, yes. But I think that if you said, let's watch this again straight after recording, I would quite happily do so, because I think being a Daphne fan, for all like it's the worst of Velma, I was never invested in Velma's character anyway. They always kind of irritate me, so there's nothing much new apart from the fact that it's exaggerated. But equally, being the Daphne fan, this is, I guess, like one of the definitive Daphnes. This is, like you say, Millie, one of the best Daphne interpretations that we've got. And so all throughout this, every time they do something, I'm there, I'm cheering, I've got my own pom-poms in my hand, like, yes, I love this, keep doing this. So, yes, definitely, I'm going to smash this movie. And I'd watch it again tonight. So, Millie, would you smash or pass Scooby Doo and the Curse of the 13th Ghost?
So, believe it or not, I love this movie. It's
Jesus.
It's a really good movie. If they'd have stopped recording 3 minutes before it ends, I'd be saying smash all day for this movie.
Yeah, watch it. Just smash your DVD player.
I'd have watched it again by now, because we first watched this 3 days ago. If it wasn't for the last 3 minutes of this film, I'd have watched it again by now. Absolutely loved it. But it's wrecked my Scooby-Doo experience. Growing up, I hated Velma. I didn't like her character at all. And I can honestly say, without a shadow of a doubt, I'm never going to see Scooby-Doo the same way again after watching this movie, because I didn't like Velma to begin with. I absolutely despise her character now. This was such a good movie, and she absolutely killed it. So I'm going to say that I'm going to change my guidelines a little bit here, because I was going into this recording saying smash and pass because I love and hate the movie. After speaking about the movie, I've realised that my hate for it is that strong that I have to say pass, but I want to watch it again. So we normally say that it's a smash if you want to watch it again, but I genuinely can't bring myself to say that. I feel like I want to watch it again and I want to turn it off as Daphne's looking at Fred like they're about to kiss and just pretend that's the end of the movie. But yeah, this has genuinely wrecked Scooby-Doo for me. I was dreading going into next week because I don't want to see Zombie Island ruined. And going into that movie on the back of this, when I'm that wound up with the series and hate Velma already, next week's going to be, she's going to be obliterated with me speaking.
I'm scared. I'm more scared for the
I'm
audience.
so
now.
scared.
JayBee will tell you, I've been angry in this. Like, my face has genuinely been red. I've been that angry.
Table.
And that's how much
Oh,
I
we should have done
hate
this on
Velma's
Zoom
character.
then.
Millie.
I
Everybody needed
absolutely
to see.
despise her character. Growing up, I thought she was miserable. I thought she wrecked Scooby-Doo. She was always trying to flaw the fun in it, and that's exactly what she did here. She's awful. I absolutely hate her. I'd happily let this movie be the last one with Velma in it, and then, as I've heard from the reaction, she's just going to kill the next one. And honestly, like, I can't wait to, like, just go on a rant about how much I hate her again next week, because she's killed this, and this was an incredible movie. Zombie Island was an incredible movie, and I know, even though I've not seen it, she's going to kill that in the next one. I hate Velma. I actively despise her right now. So yeah, this movie is a pass. It's so close to being a smash. It's upsetting because I do love this movie. But yeah, I absolutely hate Velma, and that's the end of that.
She's a little nerd with bad hair, and she's not as good as Daphne.
Rihanna, we love your positivity. We really do. You really help balance us, and I know that you like Velma, so you can bring it back a bit. Smash your pass.
Rihanna Station.
Okay, so first I found the note. It was the second direct-to-video movie that doesn't actually have the special thanks to Joe Ruby and Ken Spears credit at the end.
Aw.
Yes.
And that is kind of sad because, given everything they did, but, that was my little note at the end. So this movie is one which, looking at it as a 13 Ghosts fan, not that impressed. Looking at it, and this is what I'm going into next week with. I'm not, I'm going to be watching Return to Zombie Island straight after Zombie Island, which I know people say don't do.
Me too.
But I will
I
be
didn't.
watching it as a standalone. It's what I do with a lot of Scooby-Doo movies, other than the WWE ones, because I like, I'm obsessed with WWE, and I watch them back to back. But it's a complicated one for me, because I want to say right now that despite everything bad Warner Brothers has done, they have done so much right. And this is me playing devil's advocate, probably, which, original people who hated on 13 Ghosts would slam me for saying that. But honestly, we've gotten some amazing songs. Yes, Warner Brothers themselves didn't write it, but they've allowed those songs to be in the movie. They could have very easily turned around about the poem, about the song, about certain parts that we really liked, and said, nope, we don't want it. We want you to cut all of this out and change it completely. They've kept the formula of Scooby-Doo in this movie. That there's an unmasking, that there is. I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you meddling kids, even though it was Fred telling him what to say. There were a lot of nostalgic references. didn't like how they portrayed Velma. Unlike Millie, I do like Velma. I relate a lot to her in some ways. But at the same time, they played her flaws up a bit too much. And that did ruin the experience. But at the same time, and again, this is only really recently, like in the last hour, well, 2 hours really, because we've been going on for 2 hours, is that Velma is very much a logically minded person. She sees things as black and white. There is no other colors in it. So looking at it like that, I can see where she's coming from, because, if someone were to tell me something completely wrong about quantum mechanics / physics, I would be like, no, this is what I know. What I know is right. Like, you're saying that this is happening. I would be very protective over my belief, So I can see where she's coming from with the stand of there's no such thing as ghosts. There's always an explanation for things. I don't know. It's a hard one for me because there's so much that I like. There's a lot that I dislike. But I do like how open to interpretation it is. And I would watch it again. So for me, it's a smash. And I just think that if Warner Brothers could allow the writers to have just that little bit more freedom, a little bit more freedom to have brought back Scrappy, that would have gotten a lot of heat off of Velma, most probably. Or Velma and Scrappy teaming up. That would have been an interesting mix. They could have toned things down. They could have done things differently. So I think it is definitely a smash. And I just hope that in the future, Warner Brothers, if you're listening to this, please just give writers more freedom. Just accept the fact that, us Scooby fans like certain aspects of Scooby that you're cutting out. And just allow us to have more fun with it and promote things a bit more. And then, we won't be slamming you as much. And also, if you are seeing this, please hire me in the future. I don't fully hate you. So, there we go.
Yeah, please do hire her. She's amazing. And thank you for that. I think it
the views
added...
of JayBee and Millie are not the views of all the co-hosts.
I think it added a level of... Your, answer added a level of positivity that we need, and I'm still going through a level of rage, because... literally all the way through that I was like, Scrappy's so less annoying than Velma. Why did they get rid of him and not her? I'm still I'm gonna full on rage about this movie. I need to calm down. So lastly, Smash, we have you. So would you say smash or pass for Scooby-Doo Curse of the 13th Ghost?
Okay, I'm gonna try to go through everything fast because I need to head out. But I just want to say that this movie is actually my top 5 favorites of Scooby-Doo movies. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that this movie is kind of weirdly open-ended, and it has, that potential to be interpreted how you like. So, before I say my rating, here is my theory for the ending of the movie that I came up back when the movie released. So I'm just gonna read it how I wrote it. So it's gonna kind of sound a little weird, I don't know. Anyway, so let me go through this. So first, I want to say, yes, there are continuity errors. That's something we just have to accept at this point with Scooby-Doo. I actually love films like this where it has an open end for you to think about, because it lets you speculate, watch the movie multiple times to pull in more details, and just makes you think about the movie after it's over. Alright, so here's my theory. I don't believe it was all a hallucination. I believe that was just Velma's theory for herself to believe, since she is a person of logic and facts, as she says in Scooby-Doo 2. Now, this part gets debunked, because originally I wrote, I think this is taking place before Zombie Island, but we learn in the next movie that it takes place afterwards. So that part can be disregarded. So, I believe Vincent's friend Maurice... No, it was Mortifer. I don't know why I have Maurice there. That's the voice actor for Vincent. I believe Vincent's friend Mortifer was good when we saw him in the flashback at the beginning. He helped Vincent capture the ghosts and demons, but soon got carried away. So in that flashback, they did capture the ghosts, including Asmodeus. The spirit ghost things that attacked Mortifer were all an illusion he created so Vincent would think he had died and took off. But Vincent ran off with the chest, and Mortifer had to look for it all these years, because again, eventually Shaggy, Scooby, and Daphne took it. So, he was like, okay, cool, I'll just go to where Vincent resides and steal it from him. But then he goes and he's like, where the frick is it, So now, fast forward to the 13th Ghost series, Shaggy and Scooby let them out again and captured 12, 11, whatever you want to believe, of the ghosts. So now here's where Vincent's ancestor comes in. He had been trapped in the chest for years. He was the ghost we saw in the flashback when Mortifer and Vincent trapped them again. But he had so much time to think about what he had been doing, and he saw Vincent that night when he was captured and started to be put into perspective for him, that he realized the terror he had been causing. So I believe when Shaggy and Scooby let the 13 ghosts out, the Asmodeus that went out then was Vincent's ancestor, Asmodeus, and that's when he had been watching and tried to protect him from Mortifer, since he had seen Vincent when him and Mortifer trapped them in the chest. But over the course of Shaggy, Scooby, Daphne, Flam, and Scrappy, yes, he was there, Asman Van Ghoul grew old and weak and eventually passed away before Mortifer was stopped. So in that time, Mortifer had been impersonating Asman Van Ghoul as Asmodeus, the monster or demon version of Asma. Mortifer kept seeking the chest of demons as Asmodeus as the gang were capturing the other 12. That is until he thought he finally got it at the end of the Curse of the 13th Ghost. And so when he drove away, he drove away, but escaping near death and jumped out of the car. He was caught and sent to prison, and that caused for Asman Van Ghoul to feel comfort and at peace that he would no longer be as a threat, even though Mortifer would die. His antics had been put to a stop, and he wouldn't be a threat to Vincent any longer. Or anyone else. The smoke was the best thing Asman could send as a sign of thank you, rest to Vincent. So I know this theory is really far out, especially for a child, but that's what I came up with, and that's what I'm going with. So I would like to say these things in the name of Asman Ghoul. I smashed this movie.
Yay, okay.
Hey, that's incredible. So I guess 3 smashes, 1 pass.
To be fair, mine, if we go by our normal rules, mine should be a smash. I do want to watch this movie again. I really like it. It's just, I want it to end sooner. So I guess it's a unanimously good movie.
Yeah, pretty much. So, Smash, do you need to head out before community news, or?
I do need to head out. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, so that was Smash, everyone. Thank you so much for them for being in the episode as usual, and links to all their stuff in the description down below. And now I suppose we should move on to community news, if there is any. So, Rihanna, do you know of any community news that is going on?
Do I know of any community news? Let's see. I thought I did, but apparently Twitter has gone down and I can't find it. I think it was something about a new figure that will be coming out at some point, but I can't find it because Twitter's just not working.
Oh, I've seen something. I don't know if it's what you were thinking of, but it's a Funko Pop. It's the glow-in-the-dark Phantom Shadow.
Yes, that's it.
And it
Thank
looks
you.
really, really cool. And I think it probably isn't worth getting if you've got the base Phantom Shadow, but we don't. So definitely, I want to look out for that. I've heard that it's available out in shops in America, but I can't find it in the UK. So it'll probably be a while. I don't know if Double Box Toys or Pop in a Box are going to get it, but yeah, we're going to keep an eye out for that. I guess also, because this episode goes out on the Saturday, then that means that yesterday, when people are hearing this, we will have premiered the interview with Morgan Baden, who, if you do want to see a good Velma in action, then read those books, because that is awesome.
I'd say if you want to see a good Shaggy, go read those books, because for me that is my favourite ever Shaggy adaptation, and I feel like that made me like them even more in this movie, you know, when we saw them being like a lead, like flying the plane and stuff. For me, I was calling back to that book, like, yeah, Shaggy is the main character, he does have more to offer, and I feel like that book demonstrates that more than, I want to say more than any Scooby-Doo even series or movie. It's amazing.
Yeah, like, it's really good. So yeah, I hope that everyone enjoys that interview. We've got loads more on the way. Like, I have a book at the moment that I'm filling a little bit each day of agents' contact information. Like, it's just amazing. So keep an eye on the channel, because there are some really cool things going on behind the scenes that you don't want to miss out on, if I do say so myself. So Millie, do you have any last remarks? I think the next one we are going to cover, like we said, is Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island, which I don't think I've properly seen all the way through. I have seen a lot of it. In fact, I'd say the majority of it. But Millie, you've not seen it at all.
I've not seen a single second of that movie. Have you, Rihanna?
I have seen the trailer. Well, by the trailer, I mean a whole 5 seconds of it. And I mean, it's more like 6 seconds, to be honest. And then I've got the DVD. Have I watched it? Nope, because I'm terrified.
Me too. So we're going to do that this week. Me and Rihanna are going to watch it for the first time. Right after Zombie Island. And right after Velma doing this in this movie. It's going to be great.
It's gonna be something. I wouldn't really use great.
I don't think I'm going to be using great next week either.
I'm going into it with an open mind, you know. And the thing is, again, you know, just before we end this, Warner Brothers, no matter what, we are not angry with you. We are just extremely disappointed.
Yeah, and Warner Brothers, whatever me and JayBee say, it's not the opinion of Rihanna.
Shame on you, Warner.
Predominantly me. Because I wouldn't say I'm disappointed in Warner Brothers, I'd say I'm disowning. Okay, so any other things to add, JayBee?
No, I think that's good.
Okay, great. So like you said, the next episode is going to be Return to Zombie Island. That, I imagine, is going to be another really interesting episode. So yeah, please stick around for that. That will air next Saturday. So yeah, please like, comment and subscribe to JayBee and Millie. Also, huge thanks to Rihanna for being here today. And Smash as well. Their links will be in the description below.
Ooh.